Party people, this is the Master of Games, Master Mario from the Cosplay Wrestling Federation. Word is Jeremy, Steve, and Jesse from the Rolling 20s will be all over Great American Comic-Con hosting panels with John Romita Jr., Joe Rubenstein, Bob Layton, and a whole lot of other special guests. Come see a great show December 3rd and 4th at the Cashman Center in Las Vegas. Great American Comic-Con. Where are you gonna be?
I can't believe it, Daisy wants to go to the Mushroom Kingdom of Prom with me.
Can I help you? Lumbino?
It's me, Luigi. I'm here to pick you up for the prom.
Huh? I'm 35. I'm not going to prom.
But you called me, and I sold my mansion to rent a limo.
The pranked again! And that's a two! A double prank, bitch!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rolling 20s. We are the show that found out CBS says the new Star Trek Discovery is going to be edgier. Get ready for that warp nude scene we've heard about. I am Jeremy.
Steve. And Jesse.
Remember, you can subscribe to this show and several others under the MSP library at missionstarpodcast.com. You can like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, and Tumblr. Follow us on Twitter at the Rolling 20s. You can send us any fan mail, suggestions for the show, or hate mail at mspfreight@yahoo.com. The music you heard at the beginning of the show is by Machina Supremacy. You can find more of their discography for free download at machinasupremacy.com, as well as their latest couple of albums on amazon.com. The clip you heard was Mario and Luigi, Prank War by Dorkly. You can find more of their videos on YouTube under their channel of Dorkly. How goes so far?
I just came back from the shooting range today.
How many holes do you have in you?
No more than usual.
Okay. All right, so you got shot twice. Good to know. So, what were you using?
Shot a 22, a 9mm, a 40 caliber, and a 44.
Interesting to listen to. I have too many conservative friends, though, that would call you a puss at this moment. You know, if you have anything less than a 45, they just get a little antsy.
Hey, oh, well. It's my first time firing a firearms, period. So
okay.
It was an interesting experience.
I'm just saying I know people, that's all. You know, shoot. Yeah. What about you, Steve? What have you been up to?
Taking it easy.
I was about to say, you were the one shooting at Jesse, or what?
No, I had to call in sick once this week because I just wasn't feeling good. So I've just been taking the rest of the week easy.
Okay, hoof and mouth disease can suck. Yeah, I got into drama a couple days ago. Just unintentional drama.
Doing what?
Going grocery
hitting
shopping.
Somebody's car.
Things.
Oh,
make it sound so heinous the way you put it. You know, it was a complete accident, and I found out later on I wouldn't even have been found liably at fault. Let me lay this out. I parked in a spot. You know, it looked wide enough, but as soon as I got out of the car, I noticed that the people on both sides of me, you know how some parking spots, they have double lines? There's an outer line and an inner line marking the spot?
Mm-hmm.
They were parked on top of the outer lines in both cases. So I didn't have a lot of room to maneuver. When I got into the back of my car to get the garbage bags, the door expander worked overtime and just swung open the door, unfortunately. And it tapped this white crossover vehicle next to me, which sucks. You know, I looked at it, there was a small spot of my gold paint on there, and there was a lady behind the driver's seat, and I looked in the window, and I looked her right in the face, as well as I could, as she was wearing sunglasses, and said, sorry, and she just didn't move. She just had this incredulous expression on her face. So, rather than have a confrontation, I just decided to go inside and do my shopping. A few minutes later, guess who decides to confront me in the store?
Shades?
Yeah, she didn't have her sunglasses. She asked me if that was my car. Yes. Did your door hit mine? Yes. And she just said, okay, are you going to pay for the damages? What damages? You know, and she shows me the picture, and the spot on her phone looks huge. But, you know, I took a photo of it, and the spot of gold paint is smaller than my pinky fingernail. So I just told her, you know, I don't have money for this. And she just says, okay, well, you know, can I get your insurance information? Sure, I need yours. Why? She doesn't understand that if she wants to claim an auto accident, we need to exchange information. That's the way these things work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the part that I was just like, no way, no.
Yeah. Yeah, then she, when I refuse, unless we trade information, she just says, okay, I'm going to call my husband. So I stand there and wait because I'm a black man talking to this diminutive woman. I don't want to be accused of anything. So I just stand and wait. She talks to her husband for a few minutes. She looks at me from the phone and says, he wants you to sign a note claiming liability. No. Why not? Your door hit mine? Yes. So it should be fine for you to sign liability. No, it wouldn't. I work for lawyers. They would not allow me to do that. You know, there's nobody in their right mind that would do that. And so she decides to get back on the phone and tells her husband he's arguing about it. He's changing his story. I'm not changing my story. I'm just not signing away liability. She said, your door hit mine. Yes. So it's your fault. I'm not saying that. So she kept thinking I was changing my story throughout this, and she's getting more and more incredulous. And then she says her husband wants to talk to me, so I have to have the exact same conversation with her husband, who's given me this weird attitude and everything about it. He doesn't understand why I won't sign a note of liability. So after a few minutes, he makes me hand the phone back to her. I do. And then after a few more minutes of me waiting, standing around, thinking I'm really glad I didn't pick up anything cold from Target today, she just gets that sneer when somebody thinks they got you over a barrel and says, my husband's calling the police. I'm like, fine. You know, I'm hoping the police will settle this faster than they will, obviously. So she starts describing where we are in Target. She's like, we're in the beverage aisle. I'm not quite sure where we are in here. And I told her, let's wait by the cars. They are not going to come in here. So, you know, I grab the last item I need. I go to pay for it. I see her waiting for me at the end of the registers. And I even walked up to meet her because, again, not running, not hostile, not stupid. So we walk out to the cars. I put my stuff away. And as soon as I put my stuff in the trunk is when two other guys walk up. And they're Target security. Apparently the husband called them as well. I know, this story's already long for an intro to the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they're just standing there to make sure that there isn't a confrontation. I said, you guys can stand wherever you want. There isn't a confrontation. She's walked up to me and said she wanted money. Then she wanted me to sign a note of liability. She says, that's not what I want. Lady, all I want is to exchange information. Well, I don't see why you have to do that. That's why we have a problem. You know, and she just says, fine, I'm going to call the police. Oh, fine, please call the police so we can get this over with. So they give her the non-emergency number, and she starts complaining that it rings too long. Ugh. So while she's on the phone supposedly with the police, and mind you, nobody ever talked to me, I had a conversation with security guards who were rather nice. You know, I even still had a shopping cart from when I put my stuff away, and right after she finally got somebody, I just looked at the guy and said, can I go, like, rack my shopping cart? I don't want to stand with this. And he just offers to take it from me and says, you don't want to be accused of anything, right? I know, right? So after he comes back, we just start having conversations about weird things that happen in parking lots during the holidays and stuff we've seen. You know, 15 minutes later, she's finally off the phone. She looks at me and says, they say we should exchange information. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, woo, I wasn't expecting that at all. So, you know, she goes to her glove compartment, I go to mine, I get the stuff out, and it's at this moment that her husband walks up. This is the moment where I'm thinking, this is either one fuckload of a coincidence or I'm being scammed by somebody. So the odd move to me was that he immediately thanks the security and dismisses them. I'm like, don't you want them around? Aren't I dangerous and confrontational and all this other stuff? So he, you know, we go over this thing again where I will not sign the note of liability. I want to exchange information. The insurance is paid for a reason. I would like them to sort all this out. Why are you changing your story? I'm not changing my story. Never change my story. I just don't think the circumstances were caused by my actions. He said, that's changing the story. I'm like, I'm not changing the story. I just want to exchange information and move on with my day. You know, this whole thing has taken about 45 minutes of my evening so far. And so he takes 3 or 4 good looks at it, and she's still yakking, and he says he's still on the phone with the police. I'm like, she called them. That doesn't threaten me anymore. And finally, he just, after 3-4 long looks, says, you know what, we won't need insurance information on this. This will come out. And I'm just like, yeah, I kind of figured that, whatever. So they proceed to try to dress me down verbally. You know, she complains, he complains, and I just keep saying, I'm not going to sign a note of liability. I've repeated it several times by now. And it looks like things are done, so I looked at the woman and said, could you please pull out first? I don't want a repeat of this incident. And she just says, fine, and she goes to get in her car, and as her husband walks away, he looks over his shoulder at me and says, you need to change your attitude. And all I can do is raise an eyebrow, because the first thing I want to do is say, I work with people who try to get on my goat all day. If that's all you got, man, you need to do a lot better than that. And I finished my evening. A whole bunch of drama for a speck of paint smaller than one of my fingernails. Sorry, but that's a detailed account as to what happened.
I don't envy you.
Yeah, she even got incredulous with me because as she was calling the police, I just said, "Lady, I was hoping you would call the police. You said all this, and even though I'm black, I haven't run. I'm waiting for you to call them. Why would you say that? What are you talking about? Why would you say that you're black? Because I am. Are you? Yes. Why would you bring race into this? I'm not bringing race. I'm trying to bring levity. Just call the police." That was an interesting afternoon, and I've told that story to the attorneys I work for. I've told that story to my mother, who's a paralegal, and all of them said the same thing. You wouldn't be at fault in that situation. Do you have photos? Of course I got photos. You should get photos of her license plate. Oh, boy, did I. So now I just have to watch my mail for a few weeks to see if I get some kind of BS claim. I'm not going to sign a note of liability because as soon as they leave with that, they could take it back to the house, hit their door with a hammer, and say, "God, he hit that hard." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if they happen to get into another accident on that door, everything is suddenly my fault. No way.
Yeah, actually, standard procedure is never, ever sign liability.
No.
Any insurance, even bad insurance will give you that advice.
Yep. So, I was skeptical when the first thing she said is, "Are you going to pay for the damages?" It's like, oh boy.
It's a spec.
Yeah. The subject of this week is our Comic-Con review. We are going to go over Comic-Con again because we just want to catch up with each other and ask each other and make sure we get to some details as to Comic-Con. Before that, we're going to go through the news of the week. First up is Marvel media news. We're going to talk about the Marvel properties that Marvel has that are coming out on TV screens, on radio, on the internet, and everywhere else but the comic book page. And first up is that Captain Marvel. We all know by now who has been cast in that. Brie Larson, the actress from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, The Room, and several other films. She has, now that she's been picked as a role, certain details are coming out about the project itself, her solo film. And they are planning on changing her origin, apparently.
Okay.
I admit to not having a whole lot of clarity as to the origin of how Carol Danvers got her powers. I know she got it from being in proximity to the original Captain Marvel, Marvel, for a while, in addition to a couple other items. But I've never been 100% clear on that.
Yeah, because she doesn't have the bands, right?
No, she never used I think they're called the Negabands? No. Is it Negabands or Unibands?
I think it's Negabands.
I think you're right. I think it's the Negabands. According to the screenwriter of the film, Nicole Perlman, quote, "Here's the thing. If you were just going to do a straight adaptation of the comics, her origin story is very similar to Green Lantern. And obviously that's not what we want to do. There's a lot of reinvention that needs to happen, and also, she's her own person, and she's a great character. We have to be aware of what's happened in other Marvel films and make sure that her particular storyline is unique and fun, and also fits in with this world that's going on at the same time. It's a little bit of an interesting story gauntlet. It's been good to have a partner. It's been an incredible experience. If we can pull it off, it could be an incredibly important, but also really fun and kick-ass superhero film," unquote. I always thought that Marvel's equivalent to the Green Lanterns was the Nova Corps. Because when Richard Rider was palling around, Nova Corps made a rough landing on his planet, handed over the helmet, and bam, Nova. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think they're talking about the similarity of, pilot, exposed to radiation or, cosmic radiation or whatever.
She wasn't exposed to cosmic radiation. She was exposed to Marvel. I don't know if they were sleeping together necessarily. Now that I've said that out loud, I realize how that statement came across. But, no, from what I understood, her original power set came because she was in a romantic and close proximity to Marvel for extended periods. Somehow that altered her DNA slightly, in addition to a machine I think the Kree put her in. She's more or less a Kree-human hybrid, if I understand the comics correctly. In addition to a couple other things that happened. The Brood stuck her in another machine, her DNA altered. That's where Binary came from. And those powers do still come up every now and again. So, I may have to do some research here because I've never understood her origin to be that similar to Green Lanterns. Another classic hero, though, that is about to get his due would be Cage. I think we can all agree on that.
Yep.
The Netflix series is due out in 7 weeks? September 30th is the date.
Oh, damn.
It is coming fast.
Yep.
But well, Netflix has decided to grace us with a full trailer. Not the teaser stuff we got at Comic-Con, not a small clip, a near 3-minute trailer.
Wow.
Hit it.
I was about to say, I'm not going to ask if you're interested, because I already know the answer to that.
Now!
Listen, you schmuck. I've had a hard enough day. I've had people crawling up my ass for little specks of paint at Target. I've had people laughing about that all goddamn weekend. I've had other people complimenting me. Now I have anxiety when I go outside the house, okay?
I think
I
you
learned
should
how to shoot a gun.
If they contact you, you should charge them for detailing.
Screw that, man. If they contact me, I'm going to open a civil suit for harassment and stalking. I sent the video. That's a big SUV.
Yep. Now it's a wrecked SUV.
Yeah, you knew it wasn't going to hit Claire Temple. No way.
I'm just living my life, day to day.
You should be out there helping people.
You think I asked for any of this?
He's one of the few men I know that can make polos look butch.
I was put in some tank like an exotic fish.
Look at these bracers and the thing on his head. What does that remind you of? Yeah.
That would be a waste.
I mean,
Yep.
that's a nice cameo right there.
It's not a cameo.
Keep it.
It's an Easter egg for his origin story.
Too much happens in the shadows. People fear what they can't see.
Is that a Black Joe?
This place is our reputation, our legacy, our blood.
I just want to know how they're going to be threatening to him, because if he's taking on just a mob, that's an easy fight for Cage.
He's got to protect other people, I think.
Yeah, so they're going after the people, not him.
Sometimes if you want
Look at that
justice,
tie.
you have to get it yourself.
Hungry eyes.
So is this like before events in Jessica Jones?
This is after Jones. He's reestablishing himself in Harlem.
Oh! Ow!
I know, the way that wrist just accordioned when he hit him. Oh my god.
I've got you.
They definitely thought about what it would look like if somebody with above average strength goes on a rampage.
You might be bulletproof, but Harlem ain't.
That door point. I'm starting to think he ripped that door off of one of Copperhead's own vehicles. That might have been the point of that.
You have to fight for what's right every single day.
Why don't you just tell us your name?
Ooh.
The whole neighborhood is yapping about how 2 goons got the beat down last night.
Oh!
I heard it was 4 guys.
It looks like it's going to have a very different feel from the prior Netflix series.
It's definitely going to be a lot more, a lot less dour and more lighthearted.
Well, I think that's what the trailer's highlighting, because I can see a lot of crap going down that's still going to make it pretty dark.
Well, it's definitely it's less Shadow Games, though. He's operating more in the public. Just the only difference between the others is he's not wearing a mask and he's not really hiding. He's just operating at night when more people can't see him coming. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like it's going to have a different motif, and I hope so, man. Already with the music choices, it felt very different from the others.
I mean, after watching 2 seasons of Daredevil and Jessica Jones, I would like somewhere I can actually laugh and enjoy the ass kicking.
Well, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is adding another member of their cast. We talked about how they got a new director in Jason O'Mara last week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They've added actress Parminder Nagra as an unknown role. She's going to be an outspoken anti-inhuman politician. very little is known about her character, but she'll appear in a multi-episode arc. She was recently in episodes of NCIS Los Angeles, and she used to be a series regular on The Blacklist, Alcatraz, and ER. So she's not new. Actually, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., this 4th season premieres on September 20th. September's going to be a big month for Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a report that the Spider-Man Homecoming film has added another actor as another Marvel villain. We already know that due to what happened in Hall H and the art we've seen, the Vulture is going to be a very big, bad force in the film.
Mm-hmm.
They've added a secondary character who might actually be responsible for the Vulture in this film.
Who?
Actor Michael Cernus. He's been in Orange is the New Black lately, the Netflix show. He's been cast as the Tinkerer.
Mm-hmm.
The Tinkerer is an inventor who creates weapons for supervillains. He's one of the earliest Spider-Man villains. He appeared in Amazing Spider-Man #2.
Huh.
So, yeah, I'm not saying the Tinkerer is going to fight. That's not usually his thing. He usually builds things for other villains. And I've heard that, what's his name? Hugh Jackman, the guy that's played Wolverine since we were kids, really, and that's a little scary. He has said that Wolverine 3, this upcoming film, is going to be his last one where he wears claws. Unless, of course, Fox and Marvel will come to some kind of deal and he finally gets to fight the Hulk like he wants to. The thing is, it may also be the final role for another actor in those movies. Patrick Stewart said that the Wolverine 3 will be his last turn as Charles Xavier.
Oh, wow.
I can't say that's surprising. If you've seen Stewart lately, the age is starting to show on him a bit.
Yeah.
Although I think he's starting to enjoy the role of crotchety old man. He's been playing that in a few different items lately. Have you seen him in those bourbon ads lately?
Yeah.
Strongbow.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Dude, he pretends to be so uppity in those. He starts yelling at people about lines. I am drowning out here. Do I get to drink it or not? Stuff like that.
Well, there's they're sitting there advertising the drink, and he's like, I'm the one selling this.
Actually, Jackman just released an image on Twitter not too long ago that has people speculating that the Wolverine 3, or I should say enhancing speculation, that the Wolverine 3 will be an Old Man Logan storyline.
I thought that was already confirmed.
Never has been. That's been rampant speculation. That's been the consistent speculation, but it's never been confirmed. And, Hugh Jackman, by now, he's 50 or 51. He is not new, but he still looks incredible for his age, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take a look at this image, because a lot of people were freaking out thinking, this is what Jackman looks like without makeup? Although I think this is what he looks like with makeup.
Right.
He would have to age tremendously. He would have had to have been president in the last year to age that quickly. I'm also curious about the 3 baked trout down in front of him. Is that his lunch?
Caught himself. Look at claw marks.
I think those are grill marks.
And he's listening to Britney Spears.
He's Hugh fucking Jackman. He can listen to whatever the hell he wants.
He's probably listening to himself do operatics or something. The Marvel TV head, Jeff Loeb, he says he's excited as a fan for the new X-Men series coming to Fox TV.
Mm.
Okay.
Remember, Fox canceled plans for Hellfire, and then they moved forward with an unnamed X-Men TV project. Well, Jeff Loeb has been the showrunner for things like the Netflix series and for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and other TV projects that Marvel has. It sounds like this is a collaboration of some sort.
Mm.
He said, quote, as an X-Men fan, and ultimately what Max Nix, the showrunner and creator, brings to it, is the X-Men have always been stories about family. That's where they start. That's where they live. It's about understanding how we deal with each other. It's about parents that don't understand what's wrong with their kids. It's about kids that don't understand their parents. And he understood that. He got it, unquote. In a metatextual sense, I guess since the Outback days of the X-Men, that's pretty much what the X-Men have been, is a large dysfunctional family.
Yeah, because they all live at that mansion. Most of them haven't even told their parents what's really going on.
Yeah, and when mom and dad fight, several rooms are destroyed. But it's true. It is largely true. And even in the current stages of the X-Men, they may not be a huge army anymore, but the 3 or 4 books that are available are different family-style books. Even the Uncanny X-Men, Magneto's crew, is just like a bunch of people who are trying to do right even though they spent most of their days doing wrong. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
And last up in Marvel media news, remember that statue that they unveiled at Comic-Con of Captain America? That was impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't
Big
actually
Bronson.
see it.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, man. Are you sure you want to keep buying badges at Comic-Con? Because it seems like you never go.
I don't know. Where was it?
It was at the Marvel booth.
In the middle of the...
If you're facing
Words.
the front, of the booth where the big LED screen was, it was just off to the left side.
I don't know if I made it down to their booth.
Huh. Well, we talked last week that I ran into a problem they're fixing because they're adding the names of the creators to it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's run into another problem.
What now?
People in New York are complaining about its placement in Brooklyn's Prospect Park, and that's a temporary placement. According to the New York Post, one lady named Katie Maitland complained, "Are they going to put a McDonald's here too and a Walmart?" Unquote.
What?
Dinah Krasinski said, quote, "You want to maintain the serenity, calmness, and beauty of the park," unquote. Jacob Carter said, quote, "It's not like Marvel has any relation to this park," unquote. Apparently part of the problem is that this 13-foot, 1-ton statue is stationed at the park's children's corner near the carousel. It's a location that green activists allege was designated commercial-free by New York City. It's not even staying there. The statue is going to be there for 2 weeks at Prospect Park. Then it's going to be taken in September to outside the Barclays Center, where the Brooklyn Nets play, and then after that it's going to take up a position at the soon-to-be-open Bed Bath & Beyond at the Sunset Park area of Brooklyn. It's moving around Brooklyn.
Well, apparently it's a good thing it's not staying there because people are upset.
I know, a commercial-free zone? Are you frickin'... the idea was not commercialism. The idea was Captain America was born in Brooklyn, supposedly. You know, hometown hero and all that shit?
Doesn't get you very far anymore.
No, apparently not, man. Maybe people are just upset that, Donald Trump is way down in the polls or something. Now we'll move on to DC media news. That's where we talk about the other major company and their properties that are showing up in various multimedias. And I got to start off with an open letter that was written to Warner Brothers CEO Kevin Tsujihara. Did you guys read this?
No.
Okay, I will preface this by saying this was posted by somebody identifying themselves as Gracie Law. Gracie Law was the name of the lead female character in Big Trouble in Little China, so obviously it's a pseudonym.
Right.
Also, Big Trouble in Little China had his 30th anniversary this year. Yay! But the lady identifies herself supposedly as a former Warner Brothers studio staffer of some sort. And she has some interesting insight. I will start reading this because it's not terribly long, but dude, does she hit some supposedly serious points here. And it's going to sound familiar to some of us that have seen DC's films and have not been wowed by them, okay? Mm-hmm. Here we go. Quote, "When I left my screening of The Suicide Squad last week, I was angry. I was annoyed and let down and frustrated as well, but mostly I was just angry. Look, I'm a big dork. So, of course, I thought this train wreck of a movie did a major disservice to the characters, concept, cast, and crew. But that wasn't why I was mad. Yes, it is unfathomable to me that Warner Brothers could mess up a movie starring Will Smith, Margot Robbie, and the Joker so completely. But that just had me flummoxed. I was angry because I couldn't stop thinking about you, Kevin Tsujihara. A lot of fans might be angry, and rightfully so, because you keep completely whiffing at properties that they are desperate to love and enjoy. But this is a little more personal for me. See, I am a former Warner Brothers employee. I have so much respect for your studio. I love every square inch of that magical backlot, from Stars Hollow to the fitness center I always meant to use. The people I worked with during my time with your company are now close friends. On my last day, I hugged them and I told them I loved them. I was also there in 2014 when you made the decision to lay off 10% of your workforce. It was a terrible year. Let me catch you up. Every morning I woke up with a pit in my stomach because I assumed that would be the day I lost my job. Every day I saw someone packing up their desk or carrying a box to their car. I cannot describe to you the relief I felt when my department was told we were safe, or the guilt I felt afterwards walking through the halls of my office with that relief. But out of all that, the thing that really sticks with me is the memo you sent to all of us. Let me refresh you on my favorite part. I wanted you to hear directly from me about our plans for the studio. In recent days, we have started to hear rumors here at the company and to read misinformation in the press, so I'd like to set the record straight. I know that the hard work and dedication of every employee around the world is key to Warner Brothers' success, and I am sorry for the distraction this situation brings to the workplace. At Warner Brothers, we work with the world's most extraordinary storytellers, and our focus has always been to provide the creative environment and financial resources they need to realize their vision. Our commitment to that won't change. In fact, we're investing more than ever in our film and television productions. This is how you open a memo about layoffs. Hey guys, we work hard for the people telling stories here, and we want to make sure those visions are realized. The ball's on you. That year, we pursued the storytelling vision of Adam Sandler's Blended and Clint Eastwood's Jersey Boys. Failures. We pursued a potentially great summer movie like Edge of Tomorrow and completely botched its release. Same with Man from U.N.C.L.E. We dug in our heels and hoped the Hobbit trilogy would somehow stop being a mediocre case of diminishing returns. Talented, loyal people packed their boxes and went home while your storytellers dropped the ball. One could argue that this was not your fault, that you inherited former CEO Barry Meyer's agenda and were merely trying to correct the course of an ocean liner heading for an iceberg. I would not make this argument, and here's why. I wrote this letter last year. I actually started forming it in my head after Man of Steel was a box office failure instead of the modern classic tentpole you were expecting. I kept holding off on doing anything with it because of one title, Suicide Squad. Zack Snyder's Dawn of Justice was a fiasco, but here comes this plucky little dark adventure about anti-heroes. I love David Ayer. I love Harley Quinn. I love Will Smith. Put the letter in a drawer. The ship isn't sinking anymore. Everything is fine. There's no way this movie is bad. And here we are. I got back from my screening and dusted this sucker off. You, your executive team, and the vision of your extraordinary storytellers that resulted in the loss of around 1,000 jobs seem intent on crashing this ship into as much shit as you can find in the ocean by making inane decisions over and over again. Unquote. There's more to this. How much more do you want me to do?
Finish it off. Woman's on a roll.
Okay. There's a few paragraphs left. Quote, Zack Snyder is not delivering. Is he being punished? Assistants who were doing fantastic work certainly were. People in finance and marketing and in IT. They had no say in a movie called Batman v Superman only having 8 minutes of Batman fighting Superman in it. That ends because they're moms because they have the same name. Snyder is a producer on every DC movie. He is still directing Justice League. He's being rewarded with more opportunity to get more people laid off. I'm assuming you yourself haven't been financially affected in any real way. You and your studio are the biggest lesson one can learn about life. The top screws up and the bottom suffers. Peter Jackson phones it in, and a marketing supervisor has to figure out a plan B for house payments. Your uneven Hall H presentation at Comic-Con this year was a ridiculous mess that ranged from rushed to boring. When Marvel announced their full slate of films with a fun fan event several years ago, you announced yours on a shareholder conference call. You just don't get it. And it's not just DC movies, it's your whole slate. Jupiter Ascending, Get Hard, Hot Pursuit, Max, Vacation, Pan, Point Break. Fucking Pan, you jerk! People lost their jobs and you decided Pan was a good idea. You think another Jungle Book is a good idea. What are you even doing? I wish to God you were forced to live out of a car until you made a #1 movie of the year. Maybe Wonder Woman wouldn't be such a mess. Don't try to hide behind the great trailer. People inside are already confirming it's another mess. It's almost impressive how you keep rewarding the same producers and executives for making the same mistakes over and over. If I worked at a donut stand and I kept fucking up donuts, I'd be fired. Even if I made a tiny decent one every now and then. It doesn't matter, I'm going to get fired. I love that studio, and you're allowing it to sink. It's not about making movies for the fans and not for the critics. It's not even about ruining childhoods. It's about protecting livelihoods. It's time to wake up and make the fucking donuts, Kevin. Unquote.
Wow.
Now, again, I can't back this up on anything. This was posted on Pajiba.com. It's gone semi-viral. The lady obviously never identified herself, probably because this is the kind of letter that would keep you from getting jobs in the future.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that she names Wonder Woman as a potential problem.
Yeah, that.
You know, I saw the trailer and I told you that I found cracks in it, but I didn't think it was that bad. The way she makes it sound is it sounds like Wonder Woman is another DC, I guess you could say, level film that's hiding beneath a trailer. And this letter was not ignored. The director of Wonder Woman, Patty Jenkins, she responded via Twitter in 4 tweets, really. She said, quote, "Whoa, just saw this press about Wonder Woman having problems. Are they serious? Is this some made-up BS right here? Made up? Produce a source, anyone. You can't because it's entirely false. Don't believe the hype, people. Someone's trying to spread some serious misinfo. Isn't until you are intimately involved with these things that you realize how totally false these rumors can. Let me reassure you, zero about the movie we are making being called a mess by anyone in the know. Fact," unquote. She added one more, quote, "Real lasso of truth time will reveal that letter to be false soon enough, but lame something so transparent in its agenda gets traction," unquote. I don't quite know who to believe here.
Yeah.
Because as much as I appreciate that Jenkins believes in her stuff, to be fair, so did Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
And the other thing that really strikes me here is that if she wants to allay some fears, I would say the best thing she could do is not go to Twitter. It would be go to Warner Brothers and get authorization to release like a 5-minute clip from the film. Let's see what this is. 5 minutes, I don't think, would hurt your box office.
Yeah, and the other thing is, it's like, look at the reactions from Ben Affleck and so forth, where it's like the people involved in the film are sometimes completely blind, and then when actual fan reactions come out and the movie's released and everything else, it just hits them from left side. They're just like, what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and from Ben's case, I'm sure that hurt. He didn't just put in the work on the film. He put in that work for like 6 months beforehand, getting in unbelievable shape for a 40-year-old.
Right.
And then he seemed to practice his Bruce Wayne and his Batman forever, and then even though he's been called the only serviceable part of the movie, he still has to deal with the fact that he was in a crap movie. His big comeback film after being a director hurt his career.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, I understand, you want to stand behind your stuff, and, you're just like, no one's seen this movie yet, I know how much work we put into it. That's all fine and good, but that doesn't make it good.
No, I mean, that's why when we make decisions on this show, I often run it by the two of you, because I realize I can fall in love with my own ideas. I need help sometimes.
Well, I'm not going to say... I'm not going to say Wonder Woman was starting to be looking like a bad film. Not until I see the damn thing first.
I didn't say it's looking like a bad film.
I agree. I would actually like to see them, we'll take up your challenge. We'll go ahead and we'll release a little bit of it.
Yeah, just release a little bit of a high-def clip on YouTube, just like 5 minutes, and let's see if we can get a feel for this film. It's granted, it's not going to give us any more of a window than the trailer, but maybe seeing a couple scenes in sequence will give us an idea of where we're going with this.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there is a little part of that letter that seems like it's going to gain other bits of traction. Because also announced this week is that Warner Brothers is beginning what they call active development on a true sequel to Man of Steel. According to the Wrap, they cited an undisclosed source, but somebody very familiar with the project, saying that, quote, "Superman is a top priority for the studio, and getting the character right for our audiences is of tantamount importance," unquote. So does that mean Zack Snyder's not working on this at all?
No, quite the opposite.
Unfortunately,
Yeah,
probably
apparently.
true. He's the EP on everything. The only thing I can hope is that when Jeff Johns was elevated to another executive producer, that somehow he managed to tug enough of the reins where he's the guy in charge at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I have to agree. He's made how many movies? He hasn't even really done an impressive job of defending those movies after they've come out. And yet, he's still the one in charge.
Well, reminder that Zack Snyder was also the director on Man of Steel, the movie that started this whole polarizing, divisive version of the DC universe.
I know, and he really, it's like...
I think he's hurting the brand at this point. I understand there are some hardcore people out there that when DC movies come out, they are just all love for it, and they appreciate the characters and all that. That's fine and dandy. But the problem is he's not making serviceable movies for average audiences. He's not gaining casual people. He's just pleasing a few hardcore individuals.
And
that's a problem.
Very few, because most of the people that are DC fans that I've talked to are like, no, these movies are crap.
Yeah, unfortunately, the only way to stop it, though, is if people would stop even spending the money to test it out. Because I know a lot of those people that go to see these movies admit they're crap, but that's after they've still seen the movie.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there was some news that came out about Aquaman this week. And news that lit up the internet was that the villain in the Aquaman film will be Black Manta. And when I say lit up the internet, it lit it up with comments like, really? You expected that to be a surprise? How many villains does Aquaman really have they can call his? Not that many.
I looked up Snyder's IMDb profile, and something worries. Something's going to worry you guys. Apparently, he's a writer for Wonder Woman. Yeah. He and Jeff Johns both got their fingers in the script. So if it turns out to be bad, I'm not sure who to blame in that case. So, and that's why I was worried, because I mentioned during that trailer for Wonder Woman, I liked most of it, except it was doing that speed up, slow down thing again, and I was really worried. Not that Pat Jenkins did that, but that Snyder got his hands in it in the editing room.
Yeah, he is a producer, so.
Which means he could be right over the editor's shoulder making suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked a bit about the Flash TV show, and Season 3 of The Flash is going to involve the Flashpoint storyline. He's created an alternative universe due to his own monkeying with the time stream. Apparently, he's not going to lose his powers in the time stream like I thought last week. He's going to forget he had powers. While he's in the Flashpoint timeline, the memories of what his life would have been in this universe are going to start overriding his from the original universe. So he's going to start forgetting his old life and the fact that he has abilities. Which seems kind of like a storyline cop-out, because if he's forgetting things, why would he even have the powers? Did that make any sense?
Yeah.
So, it does make sense to me that he forgets it, but he still has the powers. If he doesn't remember having the powers, that would imply he never had the powers. So,
right.
Yeah.
In the comic books and in the animated one, they undid that because he recreated the accident that gave him his powers.
True, and he had help with characters they probably cannot use.
You mean Thomas Wayne, Batman's living dad? No.
Yeah.
No, I seriously doubt he's going to be living in Central City. He's living in that cesspool across the river.
I'm guessing they had to make do with what they're allowed to use.
Probably. I just hope... Oh, that's why I don't like this idea of he's forgetting he has powers. He should really... I know it's part of the story that everyone could see coming, but I would like to see how he's going to replicate his powers, since in this universe he doesn't have the same level of scientific assistance from Thomas Wayne. Based on the trailer we saw, he would probably have to go to Star Labs or Cisco's company or whatever it is in the Flashpoint. But further on in that news, it turns out that there will be a Flash and Supergirl crossover upcoming this season, and it will be musical.
Ugh.
They're doing a musical episode, and that sounds adorable to me. I seriously hope Kevin Smith directs that episode.
If he does, I might enjoy it. Otherwise, no.
Well, there's new details coming about both shows' upcoming season. In Season 3, Savitar is going to be debuted in The Flash. Savitar is a speedster who gets his name from the Hindu god of motion? I forget, honestly. He was kind of obscure because he died early on in the pre-52 DC universe. But I guess you need another speedster, since some of the other B-listers they've introduced they've already gotten rid of.
Mm.
And Supergirl, as it turns out, is going to have a couple characters up here in her upcoming season, one of which is who was in that mystery pod at the end of Season 1. Another Kryptonian pod landed in her city right at the end of the episode. She rips off the canopy, and she seems really astonished by what's inside. Turns out the character inside is Mon-El.
Who's that?
Mon-El is a Daxamite.
Okay.
That doesn't help.
Daxamites are biological cousins. They are from the same system as Krypton.
Oh.
Which means when Daxamites make it to Earth, they have the same type of powers that Kryptonians do.
Right, okay.
I don't remember exactly what character Mon-El was in the comics. I want to say that I think that character is from the Legion of Superheroes comics. Actually, I'm fairly certain of that now. I think he called himself Valor in those comics. But the other character is one that we've been talking about that they're actually going to use on the show next season. Miss Martian is being introduced.
Interesting.
Okay.
No word on what her origin's going to be necessarily, but she's going to be played by Sharon Leal. Mon-El will be played by Christopher Wood. Over on Arrow, they're getting another character actor. Dolph Lundgren is joining the cast in an unnamed role.
Really?
Yeah, but it turns out his family name is the same. The character he's getting in that show is going to have the same family name as another DC superhero, Starfire. Not the one you're thinking of. The original Starfire was not the orange-skinned cat alien. The original Starfire was a Russian scientist, I believe.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah.
Gained his powers from an experiment, went into cryogenesis. When he came out, there was another Starfire, so he renamed himself Red Star.
Yeah, okay. I remember they show... You got a glimpse of that character before they killed the original Teen Titans cartoons show.
Yeah, he was in a couple episodes. And there was one episode that actually featured him. But that has people excited that there may be a Teen Titans reference on Arrow soon.
That'd be kind of cool.
Also cool is Legends of Tomorrow is gaining another actor playing Obsidian, one of the Justice Society of America characters. That actor is Lance Henriksen. Lance Henriksen's been in a bunch of stuff. He was the feature player on the TV show Millennium. Mm-hmm. He was also the one that played Bishop the Android on the Aliens film.
Ah.
So, that's a big pickup. Although I don't quite know what they're going to have him doing on the show, because what is he, like 70 now?
Yeah, he's pretty up there.
Yeah. So I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of CG work. In addition, Power Rangers film actress Sarah Gray has been cast to play Stargirl in the upcoming season of Legends of Tomorrow.
Huh.
She's going to be there beside Patrick J. Adams as Hourman, Amaya Jiwe as Vixen, Matthew McCall as Commander Steel, and the uncast characters of Dr. Midnight and Lance Henriksen as Obsidian. A lot of news as far as actors for the DCW. I like that name now. The DC, it's fitting. And as a matter of fact, DC has a new animated series coming for one of the characters of the Freedom Fighters. The Ray is getting his own animated show for a little bit. It's going to debut in 2017. It's supposed to be based on the version of Grant Morrison and Jim Lee's take on the character from the Multiversity Mastermen #1. According to CW Seed's description, quote, in DC's Multiversity series, writer Grant Morrison updated the Freedom Fighters to better reflect American demographics. Inspired by Morrison's new take on the character, the series Freedom Fighters The Ray will introduce the first gay superhero to lead a show, unquote. I'm sorry, have you seen the original Flash?
I have not.
He's gay. I don't mean the character, but that actor, I can't remember his name now, but he was very gay. Technically, so is the guy who plays Sheldon on The Big Bang Theory, so. He may not be in the show, but yeah, he's very gay. And last up, Hulu has a documentary I may have to check out. They made a documentary according to AV Club. It's called Limelight. It's a documentary on Bill Finger. Bill Finger is the man who's credited as a co-creator of Batman.
Huh.
DC previously gave Bob Kane sole credit as the creator of Batman due to a contract signed with DC's predecessor, National Comics. But Bill Finger's name has come up recently, and they've given him co-creator credits to the character. I wonder what that meant to Bill Finger's family, man. I don't know if that meant they got the credit that he deserved, or if they get money for it. Because you would think if he got credit, he deserves money. Or his family, I should say. His estate. Whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we will move on to general media news. We will talk about the geeky properties and multimedia that are not Marvel and DC related. I am not a great fan of Star Wars. Are either of you big fans of Star Wars?
Moderate.
I'm still, jury's out on the new stuff. I enjoyed the latest movie that came out, but I'm still pissed that they, scrapped all the... I was a big novel fan, and I'm a little bit pissed that they scrapped all the previous storylines and whatnot. Yeah.
Well, I ask because it's been announced this week that a new version of Star Wars The Force Awakens will be released on Blu-ray.
Okay.
It will be 3D, but they're also going to add in deleted scenes that were previously removed from the final edit of the film. They're calling it the 3D Collector's Edition. The bonus features that are coming out and this comes out on November 15th. Audio commentary with J.J. Abrams. Foley artists consisting of old pros and new talent unite to bring the world of Star Wars The Force Awakens alive through matching sound to the action. Sounds of the Renaissance is about sound design, deleted scenes, never-before scenes that didn't make it to the film's final cut. Dressing the Galaxy about costuming, The Scavenger, the Stormtrooper, a conversation with Daisy Ridley and John Boyega. Inside the Armory, classic bonus features, and that's about it.
What's up with companies and releasing versions of their film with deleted scenes?
Because people will pay an additional $30 to pick up the disc.
Yeah.
If people wouldn't buy it, they wouldn't make it.
Yeah, I won't be picking this up. I don't care about 3D, and none of the rest of that really interests me.
I actually own a 3D TV. I appreciate it in certain respects. I've never been a heavy Star Wars fan, so this isn't something that makes me want to go out and spend more money for a movie I'm always been kind of about.
Yeah.
Star Wars is more of my wife's. Yes, it's more my wife's thing than mine.
Unfortunately, I'm the kind of guy that likes to listen to the audio commentary as the film's being played just to get insight. But I don't feel like spending extra money on that.
I just wish they would post honest commentary. Oh, I remember this day of shooting. This is the day where my doctor told me I had herpes and I had to stay away from the rest of the cast. So,
yeah, they're not going to allow that shit in.
Like I said, I would just like it to be honest. That's all. You guys seen the latest Rogue One trailer came out this week?
No.
I have not seen the trailer.
I heard the trailer exists. That's all I know.
Oh, yeah, the trailer came out, I sat down and watched it, and people started going bananas over the one scene where they saw the black helmet and the raspy breathing come up. Like, God, why are people so astonished like this? If you know the timeline of the film, you know he's around. And you're not going to make a film during this part of the timeline without some kind of scene with the guy in it, you know?
Mm.
Well, there are some people don't have the same information we have.
I'm not talking about information, I'm talking about common sense. It's a movie about the construction of the Death Star. He's alive and he's out there. It's obvious.
You actually think people out there have common sense? Most people.
I like to think that I'm not the only one. See, unlike certain people who decide to park too close to my car, I'm not the only one I ascribe out there to my level of intelligence. I sent the video.
At the top.
I sent the video. Somebody's falling asleep at the piano.
The world is coming undone. Imperial flags reign across the galaxy.
Do you have a flag?
Can you be trusted without your shackles?
Let's just get this over with, shall we?
You'll notice a lot of characters in this trailer are wearing old Imperial jackets.
A major weapons
Well,
test is
that
imminent.
makes sense, considering that
destroy
a lot of the rebellion was pulled from former
this,
Imperial trained people.
want to help.
One thing I've wondered, though, I've noticed that in none of the Star Wars films, nobody seems to have recreational broadcasts.
The rebellion for a long time.
I've seen people playing games, but it's not like anybody watches TV or films in this universe.
Inside the Empire now.
Not complaining, just something I've realized over time.
Yeah.
As the Force wills it.
This is kind of like Tiananmen, except the monks kick ass.
Oh, yeah.
The captain says you are a friend. I will not kill you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Cuddly Droid.
There isn't much time.
Oh, it's upside down.
That's an interesting view.
There's a U-wing.
Do the wings fold out on that thing?
I don't believe so. I haven't had much news regarding it besides a few production stills. There you see the older X-Wings.
This is our chance
Bazookas!
to make a real difference.
Thank you, Battlefront.
I have heard that despite what they said about finding the plans in, what was it, Return of the Jedi? Not many Bothans die in this film.
Do they even show Bothans in this film?
I'm not sure. There's old Raspy. You know, I like the film. It feels very different from the prior stuff.
Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, I don't think Vader's going to hold that much of a role in this film.
Oh, obviously not, but that's what people...
badass and he starts wiping everybody out. It's not going to be much of a story.
Yeah, but that unfortunately is what a lot of people want to see, is they don't want to see new stuff. They want to see old stuff retreaded. It's a habit of some people. You know, these are the same people who, when they read about new things in movies, they start complaining, you're raping my childhood and stuff.
Grow up.
Unfortunately, though, there's some bad news that came out that's Star Wars related. What? A film studio in England, Pinewood Studios, that's where scenes from Marvel films, Star Wars films, James Bond movies, and others have been filmed. They've recently been bought out to a private equity group in London called Airmont Capital. They bought it for $419 million. Sounds cheap for a studio that gets that much business. And Pinewood Studio just opened expansions in Atlanta, Toronto, and Malaysia, other areas where a lot of filming takes place. So the problem is that people don't know if some of the existing contracts they have or the rates they even had for prior shoots will be available at this point. Because they've been bought out. It's not like they have to honor all of the contracts in the deal. So there's no announced changes, but it is something that may bear some watching in the future because it may affect a lot of things down the line.
Yeah.
But it's only their London one, right?
Well, no, they bought Pinewood Studios. They bought the company, Pinewood Studios.
Okay.
So they bought the whole damn thing.
Wow.
Like I said, for 4 film installations, $419 million sounds pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder what was going on there.
I wonder if they overextended themselves cash-wise when they opened these other new locations or something.
That could very well be. William Shatner said something is going to piss off half the science fiction fans of the universe.
Dope.
What's that?
He was at a Star Trek convention in Las Vegas recently, and he said, quote, "Star Wars created Star Trek. You know that?" Unquote.
Really?
Yes. He said, quote, "Every year there was that threat to be canceled. The third year, we were canceled and everybody accepted it. At Paramount Studios, they were running around bumping into each other. What do we got? What do we got to equal Star Wars? There was this thing that we canceled and under another management. What was it called? Star Trek? Let's resurrect that!" Unquote. So according to Shatner, if it wasn't for the success that Star Wars had after Star Trek was canceled, Star Trek as a franchise would not exist today.
That sounds quite believable.
I'm not saying he's wrong, but you know how this Trek versus War stuff ends up sometimes when people are talking about it. It's going to get ugly.
It's going to. I will just accept it and move on because I really don't give a crap about those people.
Okay. Well, there's some new news about the remake of The Crow that some companies have been working on for a while. According to Mashable, the reboot has signed a new lead actor finally. Aquaman.
Oh, okay.
Jason Momoa is in talks right now to take over the lead role of The Crow.
Interesting.
The Crow has been adapted numerous times for both television and film. Relativity Studios has been developing this reboot since 2008. A lot of different actors and directors have come in and out of the project. They just haven't been able to get started for varying reasons. Jason Momoa as The Crow, that'd be a really different story. Because, usually you think of The Crow, you think of, like, emo, like, wiry person. In this case, he would basically pick up another person and beat you to death with them.
Well, that would be a reboot.
Yeah. The Lucifer TV show is marching forward. They've signed Michael Imperioli from Sopranos fame to play Lucifer's brother in the film, Uriel. Or is that Uriel?
It's pronounced either way.
Okay. Michael Imperioli played Tony Soprano's nephew in the show. Christopher Moltisanti.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's been cast in addition to Tricia Helfer from Battlestar Galactica, who's playing their mother, Charlotte, the one who escaped from hell at the end of the last season. Lucifer's second season begins September 19th on Fox. That's an interesting set of casting. I just wonder what 1 Million Moms is going to say this season. Last time
I don't care.
Last time they were ready to, what was it? They boycotted the Olive Garden just over the sponsorship of the show.
Right.
That meant there was a lot more breadsticks to go around. George R.R. Martin, it appears that even though Game of Thrones is coming into his last couple seasons, he's still going to be a busy camper and cashing a lot of royalties checks. Another series of books he worked on quite a while ago, an anthology series called Wild Cards, has been optioned for development as a live-action TV show by NBC. They obtained the rights from Martin with his longtime editor and sometimes co-writer Melinda Snodgrass serving as executive producer. So somebody who worked heavily on the books will be involved in the show. I don't know much about Wild Cards myself, other than it's an anthology of different sci-fi stories.
Oh, so it's not a concurrent story.
No. Think of it kind of like a modern version of The Outer Limits or Amazing Stories. Something like that is what I understand. According to the story on Newsarama, the Wild Cards prose novel series was launched by Martin in 1996 and has grown to include over 20 various sequels, tie-ins, and anthologies. Martin's original Wild Cards novel was a finalist for the Hugo Awards, but lost out to The Watchmen that year. In 1990, Marvel produced a tie-in miniseries based on Wild Cards, and in 2008, a sequel was published by Dabble Brothers Productions called Wild Cards: The Hard Call, unquote. Yeah, it doesn't sound like there's a coherent story through. It may be a connected universe, but not a straight story, it sounds like. You know, Martin, for an author, Martin's getting paid a lot in TV.
Yeah.
Wow. Ron Howard's Imagine Entertainment has hired screenwriter Ellen Shanman to work on a live-action adaptation of the anime Tiger and Bunny.
Really?
That would be interesting.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Tiger and Bunny was an interesting series with a Lethal Weapon-type format. Think of it as a universe where superheroes are reality show fodder. They compete every year to gain points to become the hero of the year or hero of the decade. And Ron Howard's production company has hired the screenwriter to turn this into a film. This might be one of the few animes that could get a Hollywood adaptation where people weren't constantly screaming that it has to be an all-Japanese cast.
Yeah, it really wasn't.
No, there wasn't much about the anime that screamed Japan, really. Even the mannerisms, it was a very well European style show.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'm still getting flack every once in a while from people I know on Facebook about the casting in The Ghost of the Shell and the casting on this new Netflix adaptation of Death Note, and the fact that there's only like one Asian person in it. It's like, crap. You want diversity, but all of a sudden in certain projects you don't want any diversity at all. It all has to be one color all of a sudden. Pick a side, seriously. Geek and Sundry put out an interesting article where they interviewed Will Wheaton about 3 reasons why you should be playing board games.
Okay, I could see him giving that interview.
I picked it up because it's interesting. Apparently, Will Wheaton, it looks like he may even have a regular Geek and Sundry show called Tabletop, where he has people play board games just for fun.
Yeah, we've been watching that for quite a while.
Yeah, I haven't seen it myself.
It's pretty amusing.
3 major reasons why you should play board games. Should I read it or just link it?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Quote, Monopoly is fun, but ultimately other board games are more fun. While many people think of classics like Monopoly and Scrabble when they hear the words board game, we'll discuss why board games can be so much more than Monopoly. He mentions that Monopoly often takes longer to complete than is actually fun for the players. He's not wrong. Plus, when games like Settlers of Catan came around, which involved strategy and actively keeping players involved throughout, a whole new generation was introduced to tabletop gaming as a satisfying hobby. So expand your definition of board games and you'll discover a whole new world, unquote. Am I the only one that hears Aladdin all of a sudden?
Nope.
Okay. Second on this list of 3, quote, we are in a renaissance in tabletop gaming. There are several reasons why Will says we're in a tabletop gaming renaissance. Because of crowdfunding, someone with a good idea and a good reputation can fund games online. In fact, the games category on Kickstarter raised over $400 million, which means there are games out there for everyone. Plus, with conventions like Gen Con and communities all over the internet, you'll have no trouble finding a group of people to game with. YouTube and podcasts lower the barrier of entry by making all types of games more accessible for newbies. Oh, and we all think tabletop has made a pretty big influence on the explosion of board games as well, unquote.
I have to say that of the board games that I've played at my friend's house, 70% of them were first featured on tabletop.
Mm-hmm. But I don't think they made a tabletop game. Oh, it looks like a year now.
Yeah, I believe when he started doing his live action show or something like that, then he ended up not having enough funding on tabletop.
He had a variety show for a season on Sci-Fi, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And that time is when tabletop stopped.
And last up on this list, quote, "What you play isn't as important as playing." Back in the day, video games provided social interactions by inviting friends over to all gather around a TV and play. But with the ability to play anyone over the internet, the social aspect of gaming has changed. Will brought up how we treat people and play differently when we're playing games face-to-face versus through a screen. In many modern video games, we lose the social aspect. Many people make a point to get together with friends to play board games, bringing back the social aspects to gaming. This isn't limited to tabletop gaming. Pokemon Go has social aspects, even though players are all individual. Learning how to game socially can be a good competitor is more important than which type of game you're playing, unquote.
I agree heavily with that last one.
Will's top 4 picks for board games when you want to try something new are Pandemic, Dead of Winter, Fury of Dracula, and Misspent Youth.
I've played one of those.
I haven't played any. Yeah, I'm not a board games person. And last up, a story on iDigital Times of 8 tips for beginning players and DMs from legendary dungeon master Stefan Pokorny. I do not know this name.
I'm unfamiliar as well.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, apparently Stefan Pokorny's been a DM since the age of 12.
Okay.
Wow.
Do you want just the Cliff Notes?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll read the bolded items here, and you can tell me if you want me to stop and read it, okay?
Okay.
All right.
When it comes to players, no voyeurs, jump in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, character creation doesn't have to be a chore.
No, it doesn't, but it ends up being a chore.
That's one of my favorite things. I love making characters.
Yeah, but that's because you and I know the rules, and we know how to game it.
Yeah, I just have fun coming up with concepts.
It can be a little bit harrowing, though,
daunting.
when you finish making a character and then you're sitting around for another 90 minutes waiting for people to finish.
Yeah, well, that's why I usually go around and help. It's like, okay, guys, where are you at? Oh, all right.
This next item, I feel like I need to read what's underneath it, because all it says is push the dungeon master. Makes it sound like you're threatening him until he agrees that was a 20.
Yeah.
Quote, part of a dungeon master's job is to both be prepared with a campaign, but be ready and able to adjust to the direction players take events. So when a dungeon master tries to force you back onto his or her preferred campaign track, feel free to forge your own path. There are no limits to creativity and no limits to imagination in this game, so don't be afraid. You can do whatever you want, so do that. The players are not beholden to the dungeon master. Instead, player and DM are working together to create something fresh and magical that neither anticipated in advance, unquote.
Yeah, I had to learn that one the hard way.
And while that's true, I think it can help a lot of the time if, as the GM, you tell people, okay, I'm running a much more scripted, some people use the term railroad, so forth, where it's like, okay, there's not going to be a lot of, give and take. You guys are going to follow a set series of events. Or you can say, hey, make it up as you go along. I want to have fun with this or whatever,
Like the time I had to ball up an entire encounter because you guys botched it in the first 2 moves.
You leave yours very open-ended.
I left you guys a track to make an absolute plan. All I gave you was a scenario, and you guys blew it up. Literally blew it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
you left us enough room to hang ourselves with a fire underneath.
It wasn't even successful blow it up. It was blew it up to the point where I couldn't even start it. The target got away because he didn't even have to approach the damn building anymore. When it comes to Dungeon Masters, the tips he gave were choose your style. Does that need explanation?
Little context.
Kind of wondering if...
Okay. Quote, there are 2 schools of thought on how a Dungeons & Dragons session should be run. One is called theatrical D&D, and the other is called theater of the mind. The latter has dominated Dungeons & Dragons in recent years. Theater of the Mind uses no props, no battle maps, no terrain, and no miniatures. It's about the Dungeon Master painting a picture in the players' minds. The most recent edition of D&D, the 5th, focuses on imagination and roleplay, according to lead designer Mike Merles. But Dungeon Master blog DM David makes a convincing case that players may prefer a little more visual inspiration as they play. This is the theatrical style preferred by Pokorny. Not only does it incorporate Dwarven Forge terrain, but also costumes, props, and voices in the Dungeon Master deploys when speaking as a non-player character. Not everyone uses props and voices. Many are deadpan, cerebral-like. But I want to give a performance, Pokorny says. I was very influenced by magicians in theater, actors. These kinds of things had an impression on me. I want people to come in and be transfixed by what's going on. I want them to feel transported to another world for a while. I do everything I can. I turn down the lights. I try and get them into the mood. Is he going to kiss them? I want them to feel like they're in a special place. Forget about the troubles of everyday life and just be transported for 4 or 5 hours. Each Dungeon Master strikes their own balance, but it's important to keep player satisfaction in mind, unquote. I like the social aspect of D&D. I like getting together and not just playing the game, but having fun, grabbing a drink and just kind of laughing over things. If I walk in and some dude's dressed as a wizard, I'm out.
Well, apparently this is all on the GM's part.
Yeah. I can't take that because some people get so overblown when they try to play a part for hours on end that sometimes it's just like, dude, all I said was, can I go to the bathroom? You don't have to tell me where the hole in the backyard is dug, all right? He says, have a plan, then throw it out. Those are 2 separate items.
Yeah. Well, I think that's going back more to the push the GM.
Difficulty settings. Storytelling muscle memory is the last thing he put in here.
That one.
Quote, Pokorny has been DMing for years. Like any other skill, the cumulative practice adds up. He has this natural way of spinning a yarn, Bishop said. There's a cadence to what he's doing. He's done it so many times, the game ramps up, then there's a flow. It's an art. It's quite something to witness. Practice, practice, practice. Preparation practice. Make sure you weave a good yarn, Pokorny says. But most of all, don't be afraid. Dungeons & Dragons doesn't have to be intimidating. It's precisely the game's flexibility that's made it so enduring. So whether you're a first-time player or beginner Dungeon Master, the spirit of the game can only be found in play. Once you've begun, all the advice boils away, leaving you with the pure, blazing spirit of adventure, unquote. Oh god, he ends it with a quote from like the end of Transformers Rescue Bots or something. I agree with some of that and not with others. I'm one of those theater of the mind types people. I want to be able to paint a picture in my head as much as I want other people to be able to paint their own picture. So I don't like using miniatures or terrains or stuff like that,
Unfortunately, I find that difficult to follow, so I kind of need the visuals of the miniatures.
It depends. Yeah, as he said, there's 2 different styles, and you just have to pick the one you're most comfortable with, so I could do either. I actually kind of prefer having miniatures for combat just because it lets everybody kind of know where everything is. But, as far as like setting up campaigns and, the actual dungeon exploration, I don't make a bunch of maps and crap like that. So,
yeah, you guys heard it here first, Steve. Both pitches and catches.
Yep.
We'll get into Marvel comic news. We'll talk about the Marvel properties that are ending up on the comic book pages. Unfortunately, Civil War II is starting to have the same problems that Secret Wars had. Delays.
Ooh.
Issue number 5 of Civil War II has been delayed. Originally, it was delayed to August 17th, a delay of 2 weeks. Now it's been delayed to September 17th.
Wow.
Why?
Who's the artist, writer, who's holding it up?
It's the same artists and writers that have been throughout. I can't name them offhand. I believe the writer himself is Brian Michael Bendis. The artist, if I remember correctly, is the guy who started out on Invincible Iron Man since it was relaunched. I don't recall his name, but I know that we're all fans of him. His art in Invincible just kind of blew us all out. There isn't a whole lot of news as to why necessarily, although all I can say is, if you're going to make a delay of this magnitude, just make it worth the wait. I don't need a rush product. I just need it to be a good story.
Yeah.
Marvel hasn't announced any schedule change for the series finale, Civil War number 7. Civil War number 6 was pushed from September 21st now to October 5th. Also, no word as to whether or not this will affect the new number 1s that were coming for Marvel's new Now initiative.
That would be a little awkward if those came out and the Civil War hadn't ended yet.
Yeah. Spider-Man Deadpool actually had an interesting item in it this week. as of issue number 8, which had Joe Kelly and Ed McGuinness working on it, Spider-Man had a new costume after coming back from the dead, apparently. Yeah, this is one he has never actually sported before, and it seems to be a combination of a couple different looks, as well as very reminiscent of the Scarlet Spider costume Kane ran away with recently. Take a look. It's very reminiscent of his first symbiote costume look. The Black Widow mark on the hand is a curious item.
Yeah, that is... He's fighting with Deadpool.
Well, yeah, like I said, it's Spider-Man Deadpool. That's the book where this look came out in.
Yeah.
But that's not the only item that came out in that book. There was Peter Parker apparently either hearing a memory or hearing a voice in his head that means that another storyline from a previous Spider-Man story may still be intact. He heard the voice of Mephisto. Mephisto was the one who took away his wedding in the Brand New Day story.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He apparently heard something. I don't know if it was a current voice or a flashback, but it was Mephisto saying, quote, "There will always be a part of you that is unsatisfied. No matter how hard you fight, no matter what you do, you will always sense that something is missing from your life. You will never find peace," unquote.
Huh.
That actually explains a couple things about current storytelling when it involves Spider-Man, because he's tried everything. He's tried team books, he's tried making several different companies, he's tried a couple different relationships that haven't worked out. Even though he's more successful than ever, things still aren't really flowing the way that it seems like he would like them to. I'm not saying I hope that he gets back together with Mary Jane Watson anytime soon. I would just really like to resolve that story and move the fuck on. Not only that, it's been announced that due to the hype around the character and probably some plans that have been going on for a year, Robbie Reyes is getting his own series again. Don't recognize that name, do you?
No.
It's ringing a bell back there. I can't...
We've talked about it pretty consistently over the last 4 weeks. I'll send you guys an image, and you will understand right the frick away, I guarantee. Because Robbie Reyes, his AKA in comics, has been the 4th Ghost Rider.
Oh.
Okay. He is the one who drives the modified Charger that he got from I want to say a drug dealer. So it appears that Marvel, I don't know if they're buying the hype. I don't know if this is coincidental, because again, planning for comics takes a lot longer than people generally think. According to Marvel's editor-in-chief, Alex Alonso, the new Ghost Rider was not prompted by Marvel to use the option for the character, although they were given a heads up. He said, quote, "We were waiting for Felipe's schedule. I would have loved to have launched it sooner, but he has a prosperous career in animation. We needed the time to carve it up and do it right," unquote. It turns out the co-creator, Felipe Smith, he's worked as a character designer for Nickelodeon's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh.
Huh.
Yeah, according to the co-creator, Robbie Reyes is not even a spirit of vengeance. Quote, "Prior Ghost Riders were compelled to do good. Robbie makes the choice to do good things because it's the spirit who compels him to kill," unquote.
Huh.
So he's fighting against something telling him to murder stuff. Something tells me you're not going to find Azazel in his head when everything is said and done. And by the way, when I say this Ghost Rider is different from the others, I don't just mean the car. According to a page, according to a character design page that shows the car and the character, he has 5 favored weapons.
5?
Okay.
Yes, a chain with an auto hook at the end, like they used to pick engines up out of cars.
Uh-huh.
A ball-peen hammer, 2 of them actually. One regular ball-peen hammer and one with a spike at the end. A tire iron, and a wrench tire iron.
It's thematic.
It is thematic. I'm not saying it's inappropriate. It's just, when you think Ghost Riders, you think that gigantic flaming chain. This guy has a couple different things in his arsenal.
Well, that's because they can all
including one from Joker's repertoire.
Yeah, I'm cool with this take. I'm willing to take another look. The original Ghost Rider comic of Reyes, it fizzled on me a little bit because as much as he's a Marvel character, he didn't really interact much with Marvel proper, I didn't get much of a connection because he seemed to be on an island unto himself. Maybe this new series he gets a little deeper in. And one of the characters from Deadpool and the Mercs with Money, Solo, is getting his own series. We read about that as part of Marvel's new initiative.
Mm-hmm.
The character's always been kind of threadbare when it comes to design. He's just been in a green jumpsuit. Sometimes he has some pouches, depending on the era we're talking about. Here's the character design sheet on Solo, and they've updated his look quite a bit. It looks like they're trying to stylize him more as a modern Jason Bourne for the Marvel Universe.
I can almost imagine how long his hair might have been. I mean, in the front, like anime levels of hair.
Yeah. According to the solicit, quote, "The one-man war on terror will get the job done. That's right, James Bourne, a.k.a. Solo," that's his name, actually, is on his own, right where he belongs. Deadly alien weapons are making their way into the hands of ordinary thugs, and Solo is going undercover to locate the source. Things are just heating up, and Solo might just wish he had some backup. Deadpool was just the beginning. You haven't seen anything until you've met Solo, unquote. Not exactly an original story, but like everything else, I'll at least check out the first couple issues and find out if this is a good execution.
Yeah.
There's been an artist shakeup in a few series. Invincible Iron Man artist Stefano Caselli, he's leaving his previous assignment early. He's going to be on September 14th, All New Inhumans number 11, and is now advertised to be drawn by Roald Marcelius. So he's off the book before his tenure was supposedly up. Uncanny Inhumans is also getting a new artist as of issue 13. Aaron Kim Jacinto is joining. The previous artist was Carlos Pacheco. And Stray co-creator and artist Sean Izakse is taking over October 12th Thunderbolts number 6, replacing the regular artist John Mallon. I don't know any of these artists personally, however, I can say I'm glad to hear John Mallon is off Thunderbolts, man. He was way too 90s for me. He looked like a second coming of Rob Liefeld, I kid you not. If you ever get a chance, look up the first couple of issues of Thunderbolts. They are horrendous in their styling. I could not get into them. And, Steve, you're going to need to read Deadpool Annual number 1.
Okay.
Book comes out September 28th. The reason why I say that, the artist on it is Scott Koblish and several others. The writers are Jerry Duggan and Brian Posehn. There's a 10-page backup story in the book, done by Dirty Pair cartoonist and empowered creator Adam Warren.
Oh, nice.
I can't even imagine what that story's going to be. By the way, the main story of Deadpool Annual number 1, the solicit says, quote, "Discover the secret, unearthed, never before viewed pilot of Deadpool and his insufferable pals, featuring, wait for it, Iceman and Firestar." This isn't right, unquote.
Oh, wow.
I kid you not.
Wow, okay.
Last up in Marvel comic news, Comic Book Resources, they caught up with Dennis Hopeless. He's one of the writers of All New X-Men, the story where the time-lost X-Men plus Wolverine Oye? I think her call sign is Oye, and Kid Apocalypse are traveling across the country on their own. I don't want to share the whole article, but it was an interesting story because towards the end, the interviewer asked him, what would the theme song of each member of the team be?
Okay.
It's interesting. They have a Bamf with them. You know, one of the mini demons that Nightcrawler has following him around occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
Its name is Pickles. According to Hopeless, Pickles' theme song would be David Bowie's Fame. Interesting pick.
Uh-huh.
Evan, a.k.a. Kid Apocalypse, his theme song would be Justin Timberlake's Can't Stop the Feeling. I actually like that song, and after reading the book a couple times, I could totally see that. When it comes to Idiate, a.k.a. Oye, she's a... Do you know what her abilities are?
No.
Okay, well, first off, the theme song he had is MIA's Bad Girls. MIA is a female hip-hop group out of the Middle Eastern states. Which is, kind of like a double negative. You wouldn't expect women would be allowed to sing at all in those countries.
Well, that and actual singing is actually
punishable.
Illegal yeah.
Yeah, but her abilities are interesting because she is a temperature reverser. If you throw fire at her, she can freeze it. If you throw ice at her, she can cause it to burn. So if you think about it, her teamed up with Iceman is a very lethal combination. When it comes to Kid Cyclops, he recommends Timbuk 3's The Future's So Bright, I Gotta Wear Shades.
Wow.
I gotta give points on that one. When it came to Kid Beast, Hank McCoy, Oingo Boingo's Weird Science. Young Iceman, Bobby Drake. Mr. Hopeless says his theme song would be The Kills, Cheap and Cheerful.
Not familiar with that one.
Not terribly, but I looked it up. I like it. When it comes to Young Angel with the Cosmic Wings, Warren Worthington. Everybody knows this one. LMFAO's Sexy and I Know It.
I'm sexy and I know it.
And the one I was most curious about was Wolverine, Laura Kinney, the former X-23. What would her theme song be? You hear it right now. According to him, it's just uncomfortable silence.
Okay.
I gotta give him credit. He actually put some thought into this. Those were funny.
Yeah.
Hey guys, what do you think is the hardest part about collecting comics?
Money?
You cheap mother. Steve, what do you think is the hardest part about collecting comics?
I don't know. Just figuring out which ones to get.
It's true. Finding key issues is rough. But I think the hardest part of collecting comics is getting signatures. You got to find out where creators are going to appear. You got to get the plane tickets. You got to get a hotel room, buy a badge, feed yourself, and then wait for hours on end and hope that the person you're there to see doesn't decide they've had enough and they really want a sandwich at this moment.
Yeah. Or they're off to another panel.
That's happened to me a couple of times. I think I've annoyed Brian Michael Bendis enough. He might actually know who I am. But that's why I go to Celestial Comics for signatures. Celestial Comics, they've made inroads in the industry, and they can get you a signature for only a few dollars above the price of the signature. And the best part is they'll do all the legwork and the hard work while I get to keep my fat ass at home.
Yeah, that's pretty damn convenient.
Yeah, and my ass is pretty fat. Thank you. I needed that. That's going to work great for my confidence. Celestial Comics is organized enough that they can even send it directly to grading if you want it to be. You'll find events that they're going to appear at their website or get instructions on how to send them your comics at celestial-comics.com. You can go there today and take your collection to a whole nother level. That's celestial-comics.com. Now we'll go to DC Comic News. We'll talk about the other major company and their projects that are coming soon to comic book pages near you. Rebirth is doing something very good for DC sales. Rebirth is a group of new number ones, a lot of new stories, and has pushed DC to the top of comic book sales in July of 2016. They actually took back the major market share. Their share for retail buys was 40.96% share of the comic market. Marvel Comics had 35.69% share of comics. When it comes to the top 10 comics, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the top 10 were all DC books. You know, this is good news for them, but I do worry about it a little bit just because we've seen this before. When DC has a bunch of new number ones, they have a pretty big bump during that month, but as soon as those number ones are gone, they drop fast.
It gets everybody hyped. They're like, oh, they're starting something new, and this is going to be better, and it's the same shit.
I have concerns, but wait till we go through the stories this week, because DC did introduce some new and interesting stuff. And I say interesting from my standpoint.
Yeah, well, but that's kind of why it's been the way that it's been. Yeah, they get these good things, but then they just do the same stuff. Well, so, hey, if they do something different this time...
Like I said, wait till we get through the stories this week, because there's some new stuff that came out this week that it deserved to be talked about. First of all, Tim Seeley, he's been writing on the Grayson comics lately. He's been working with Tom King as the co-writer on Grayson, and he's been signed to a DC exclusive contract. According to DC's editor-in-chief, Bob Harris, quote, "It's really exciting to see the level of talent that continues to choose DC as their creative home. Tim Seeley is an incredible storyteller, and I'm very proud to have him as part of our talent family," unquote. Look, he's a talent. He's written a good comic over the past few years, but let's not say he chose to make DC his creative home. Let's just say you paid him enough to make it worth his while. Let's be honest. But Seeley had good things to say. Quote, "Working with DC for the past several years has been a total pleasure, and it's allowed me to collaborate with some of the best editors and writers and artists in all of comics. DC has given me the opportunity to work on some of my favorite books, including Batman, Robin War, Nightwing, and The Lost Boys, as well as nurture my desire to create new content. This made it easy to call DC my new creative home," unquote. While it is called an exclusive contract, his contract does leave him room to work on his own creator-owned titles, Revival and Hack Slash. Now, certain things have changed in DC Comics with this new Rebirth initiative they started this year. First of all, Ivan Rice. I don't know if Steve remembers that name, because I cooed about Ivan Rice about a decade ago.
Yeah, not really.
Ivan Rice was the artist on the Green Lantern comics during the Sinestro War, if you recall.
Okay.
He's joining the Suicide Squad as of issue number 2. Which is an interesting pull for that book. I think you have to admit that.
Yeah.
He's going to be on with issue 2, starting with The Black Vault. It's part 2 of the current storyline. But unfortunately, it's not like he's doing the main story. He's doing a 7-issue backup called Captain Boomerang, Agent of Oz. Whatever the frick that means.
Yeah.
Amanda Waller apparently digs deep into the implausibility impressive origins of the Suicide Squad's most loathsome member to discover the truth the world has been asking for. Just who made Boomerang a captain anyway? Unquote. Holy crap, really? I might have to take back my excitement on that. Okay, now, when I say there have been some changes in DC Comics, the latest issue of the regular Batman has showed off some stuff that may give cause for pause. As you recall, we discussed in Batman number 1, somebody was observing Batman and there was guesses that it was Hugo Strange.
Which it was not.
No, it was. As of issue 2, it's been confirmed that character is Hugo Strange. And remember, Tom King is writing this. That's Scary Mother, who's been doing the Vision for Marvel Comics lately. But it turns out that there's several things behind all this. First of all, Hugo Strange is not alone. He's with a character that's been long-standing in DC Comics called the Psycho Pirate. Psycho Pirate's been a Supergirl villain on and off. He's been in several other series. He has this weird mask that gives him the ability to control both his emotions and the emotions of people around him. He was kind of a big deal during the whole era of multiple Ring Corps, as you recall.
Okay.
The thing that makes him important in this story is that it's been written in several storylines, and apparently in this one, that the Psycho Pirate can remember details from the prior universes of DC.
Whoa.
After the Crisis on Infinite Earths, the Psycho Pirate remembered details pre-Crisis. And now he's able to name details from pre-52. This is why the Psycho Pirate is often found in insane asylums, because he keeps talking about stuff that makes no sense. But that's not the only detail that came out in Batman issue 2 that makes these two dangerous. The reason why they're together, two guys who, under most circumstances, would never be found in the same room together, right? There's a reason for that. And it turns out it's the same reason as another notable DC team lately. The reason why these two were together was because they escaped the same thing together. They were running missions for a lady named Amanda Waller. They were two former members of Task Force X, a.k.a. the Suicide Squad, who got away. And now they're in Gotham. little bit of an interesting twist, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, a bit, yeah.
Okay. The writer of Red Hood and the Outlaws Rebirth, he's mentioned that this Bizarro may sound like the traditional Bizarro, but he is a much different man. According to the writer Scott Lobdell, this is a very different cat. And he had an interesting way of explaining it. Quote, this Bizarro is going to be different, you know? So it's so easy to write Bizarro as funny and childlike and unaware and naive and sometimes stupid, but none of those things appeal to me at all. I want to write a Bizarro who's just bizarre, who thinks differently than everybody else. And it's going to take Jason and Artemis a while to get past, you know, this kind of me and Bizarro speaking pattern. You know, it's kind of like when you meet someone from a foreign country and they speak in broken English. You might assume things about their difficulty in communicating, but then you find out that they're a surgeon or a president of a college. So it's you putting your own limited understanding of the person onto them, and it's not about them, but your own interpretation of them. Similarly, when they first meet Bizarro, it's almost like, oh, we have to take care of this fragile creature with the power to break the earth in half. But as they get to know him, they start to realize this is a creature who sees the world and the universe and the space between the universe and the subterranean world maybe all at once. The possibilities with Bizarro are endless, and I'm looking forward to exploring that, unquote. That is definitely a spin I've never heard attached to Bizarro before.
Yeah.
See what I mean when I said a lot of things came out in DC that are just interesting this week?
Yeah, it seems like some people have kind of gotten together and said, all right, what would we be interested in reading? I want to write that.
Well, that's what most comic book creators said, but it looks like in this case they didn't just try to recreate the same people over and over again. They took the characters and said, okay, if I had to deal with this, what would that be?
Yeah.
And the same thing happened in All-Star Batman Rebirth this week. The first issue of that came out, and Batman has a big problem, and it's an old problem. Two-Face. There's two personalities. Die? No, well, you know how comic books are. Sometimes people just randomly pop up alive. But Two-Face has two personalities going on. There's Harvey, and then there's Dent. You know, Harvey is the DA, the guy who's trying to do right. Dent is obviously Two-Face, right?
Right.
So Harvey left a message for Bruce Wayne that he knows is Batman. He's aware of this somehow. He's left a message that there is a house that Dent is trying to keep him away from, and to end Two-Face, to end the Dent personality, he has to get to that house. So, obviously, Bruce Wayne's going to take up this mission. This can mean doing away with one of his worst foes.
Right.
And saving a friend.
Right. The problem is, Dent is about as smart as Harvey. What he did was, Dent did what a lot of lawyers do. He spent his career gathering secrets on just about every citizen in Gotham, which a DA has access to, right?
Yeah.
Given enough time, you always find dirt on somebody. And then, as Batman was trying to get Dent to this house, he somehow got a message out to the populace of Gotham over every multimedia. I have all your secrets. If you don't want your secrets to come out, I will pay you $2 million to kill the Batman. And Gotham fucking mobilized. No, you don't understand. The African Batman, Batwing, he showed up to back up Batman, and he got shot in the back by a drone being piloted by Alfred fucking Pennyworth.
What?
He killed Batwing to protect whatever secret. And Batman is being confronted by, like, freaking truckers, cops, maids, all these people who don't want their worst secrets coming out. The city is, I don't want to say turned against him, but they're definitely hunting him.
Dude, this sounds like something you could do for, like, a Rockstar game.
I mean, I'm horrified by the idea, but it's an awesome story. I haven't read it myself. I'm reading the synopsis via IO9, but frick, if that doesn't get me interested in a Batman comic, you know?
Yeah.
So, it's scary, but it's what's happened so far. And then there's Superwoman #1. We've been talking about this for months now. You know, the New 52 Superman died. Lois Lane was there when he died. He had this energy backlash, and apparently she absorbed some of it. She has the standard Superman-style powers. So she has been learning via the person that taught Clark Kent in this universe how to use those powers. And this is the New 52 Lois Lane, by the way. It turns out Lana Lang is the one that taught Clark how to do everything he does. She's an engineer on top of being a farmer. She's a very brilliant woman. But Lois, as she's learning all this, when she pushes herself, her nose bleeds a bit. Obviously, her human biology is not interacting completely with what she's gained. Mm-hmm. But Lana Lang was there when Clark died, and she, Lois just wondered if she had to do this by herself. It turns out she doesn't. There's 2 superwomen. Because where Lois Lane gained all the standard powers of Superman, Lana Lang apparently gained the powers that could be equated to the 90s version of the electric Superman, the energy converter.
Huh. Really?
And she turns into Superwoman Red. You've seen Lois Lane. She dresses in that very reminiscent Superman outfit, all blue.
Yeah.
And Lana Lang, when she transforms into an energy being with a similar costume, but it's red and red highlights. So I thought, well, that's an interesting twist. 2 superwomen. That's cool. Get towards the end of the book. The 2 of them are fighting this new female villain that so far hasn't been named yet. Lois Lane takes a big punch to the chest. So massive that she expels energy and turns to ash, just like the new 52 Superman did.
Okay.
What?
In the first issue of Superwoman, unless I've missed something, the one we all thought was going to be Superwoman throughout this series died by the end of the first issue, leaving just one Superwoman in the form of Superwoman Red, Lana Lang. Isn't that an F-load of a twist?
That's almost too big to be a twist, in a way.
It feels like it, but at the same time, that's a good story to pick people up with. And the thing that killed Lois supposedly looks like a bizarro Superwoman. That's the best way I could describe it. All I can say is, even if they didn't kill her, this is a great way to start a comic because it's a bunch of curiosities.
Mm.
That's the kind of story that makes you want to tune in for issue 2 and find out where this leads. So I got to give them credit. That's awesome. And last up in DC comic news, you know how last week we had a list from Newsarama of the 10 greatest Avengers creators of all time?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, not to feel left out, they created a list of the 10 greatest Justice League creators of all time.
Okay.
Want to learn something?
Yeah, sure. This will definitely be learning.
Okay. You don't want to take any guesses, I assume?
I couldn't begin.
Yes.
Okay, number 10 on this list is Brad Meltzer. Quote, in many ways, the writer of The 10th Justice helped establish much of the tone that not just the Justice League, but the modern DC universe with his controversial miniseries Identity Crisis. As Meltzer injected a sense of corruption into the heart of the Silver Age with Dr. Light's rape of Sue Dibney, not to mention his subsequent mind-wiping by Zatanna and the Justice League, followed by the mind-wiping of Batman when he threatened to expose the errant Leaguers. Identity Crisis ended with a body count that was unrivaled in most Big Two event books. While Meltzer might be largely remembered for his darkening of the DC Universe, he also brought some light and grandeur to his work with his run of Justice League of America, which brought about an expanded team lineup featuring the ex-JSA member Hawkgirl, Roy Harper's ascension from sidekick to leaguer as the new Red Arrow, Black Canary's promotion to Justice League chairperson, and the rise and fall of the newly human Red Tornado. Meltzer's Justice League of America run was also notable for spawning crossover featuring the Justice Society and the Legion of Superheroes, as well as the return of Wally West as the Flash, unquote. I read segments of those stories. They were not bad, however, they weren't exactly unifying. And it's almost sad for me to think about in certain respects, because Michael Turner did the covers for the very first Justice League of America under Brad Meltzer. I still miss that guy. Number 9, Jerry Conway. Quote, having made his mark at Marvel following Stan Lee's iconic run on Amazing Spider-Man, Jerry Conway would go on to write more than 85 issues of the Justice League of America. And during that tenure, he changed the makeup of the League tremendously. With the League rewriting his charter to allow only full-time members into his ranks, the days of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman were over, as Aquaman led a team of second-stringers and teen up-and-comers, including Zatanna, Martian Manhunter, Vixen, Elongated Man, Gypsy, Steel, and Vibe. The Detroit League was never seen as a rousing success, but Conway's legacy wound up being ahead of its time, with characters from that era such as Vibe, Vixen, and now Steel getting new leases on life in the CW television universe, unquote.
Steel? Really?
I'm guessing he's going to appear in Supergirl. Number 8 on this list are Joseph Barbera and William Hanna.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Is that anything to do with the cartoon?
Yes, it does. Quote, meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice, every
generation
You knew that was
coming.
Every generation has their version of DC's greatest heroes, but few Justice League creators had as much of an impact on the public consciousness than Joseph Barberi and William Hanna, the executive producers behind the 13-year animated series The Super Friends. I didn't realize it went on that long.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
While considered as hokey and comically unsophisticated by today's standards, the Super Friends was an entire generation's entree to the Justice League, introducing such iconic elements as the Hall of Justice, the Legion of Doom, and the ominous Swamp headquarters, and the Wonder Twins Zan and Jaina to their pet monkey Gleek. Even the series' more culturally questionable characters, such as Apache Chief, El Dorado, and Samurai, were at the time considered successful attempts to make the show's cast more inclusive. Super Friends not only catapulted the Justice League into the national spotlight, but solidified DC's reputation as the go-to brand for superhero animation, paving the way for decades of series such as Justice League and Batman, the Brave and the Bold, unquote. Items number 7 on this list are two guys I'm almost surprised you didn't try to name. Jeff Johns and Jim Lee.
Well, those would have been the only names I could have named.
Could have tried. Well, following the events of the 2011 series Flashpoint, the world was about to discover a brand new DC universe, and his flagship title was none other than DC Chief Creative Officer Jeff Johns and DC co-publisher Jim Lee's take on the Justice League. Unfettered by previous continuity and marked by Lee's ultra-rendered new designs, Justice League was a big, broad superhero blockbuster that told readers to leave their expectations at the door. The first arc of the Justice League introduced a team of superheroes who were distrusted by the world around them, and who often didn't play nice with one another. Indeed, John's first issue primarily focused on Batman and Green Lantern's bickering banter, only to be interrupted by surprisingly punchy Superman. Lee's larger-than-life artwork proved to be a huge hook for the series, from his smoldering take on Aquaman to his powerful and potent rendition of Wonder Woman. Perhaps even more notable is John's revamping of the traditional Big Seven lineup with the promotion of Cyborg from staple Teen Titan to full-time Justice Leaguer, marking an important step in diversity for one of comics' biggest publishers, unquote. I remember when we read that series.
Yeah, we weren't as impressed.
We said about the same thing. It was like, great art. What the frick is up with the writing? Is basically our review.
Yeah.
Number 6, Dwayne McDuffie. He sounds like a guy you expect to find at the end of a bar. Quote, but one of the biggest proponents in diversity and longevity for the Justice League is none other than Dwayne McDuffie. Working in both comic books and television, McDuffie had a long and storied and even tumultuous history with the Justice League. In the TV sphere, McDuffie helped inspire an entire generation of viewers with his work on the animated Justice League series, which firmly established heroes like John Stewart and Hawkgirl as A-list leaguers before expanding into a who's who of DC superstars with Justice League Unlimited, writing iconic episodes such as Starcrossed, The Once and the Future Thing, and Question Authority. McDuffie proved to have a deft understanding of both the big-name League members as well as lesser-known superheroes such as The Question, Huntress, and Batman Beyond's Warhawk. But McDuffie's tenure on the actual Justice League of America title would prove to be more fraught with tension. His book was dogged by criticism after he reportedly was denied the use of numerous established heroes, leading him to write a book he considered Cap's kooky quartet. Of course, in this case, Captain America isn't available either, unquote. Yet McDuffie's work on the book was ahead of its time in terms of pioneering diversity, with characters of color such as John Stewart, Firestorm, and Vixen all playing major roles with the team. While McDuffie passed away in 2011, his work and message was undoubtedly a key factor in today's conversations about inclusivity in comic books, unquote. I think McDuffie was one of the co-creators of Static Shock.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he was one of the... the comic book. He was one of the founders of Milestone Comics, if I remember correctly. The all minority comic company from the 90s. Number 5 on this list that Newsarama has as the 10 greatest Justice League creators of all times is a three-way tie. Keith Geffen, J.M. DeMatteis, and Kevin Maguire. Quote, blah ha ha. While the Justice League was initially conceived as the creme de la creme of the DC lineup, Keith Geffen, J.M. DeMatteis, and Kevin Maguire turned the concept on its head with their run on Justice League International. Given none of the major leaguers thanks to their post-crisis relaunches, the team took a radical new approach to one of DC's flagship titles by injecting a previously unheard-of sense of humor in their stories. Leveraging Maguire's nearly elastic mastery of facial expressions, the creative team produced some of the weirdest but most memorable moments in the League's history, including Booster Gold and Blue Beetle's bromance as the League's biggest bunglers, as well as the hot-headed Guy Gardner getting knocked out by Batman in one punch. This new approach proved to be popular and long-lasting, earning the series a Harvey Award nomination, as well as several spin-off titles, including Justice League America, Justice League Europe, and Justice League Task Force, which went on to become a Street Fighter-esque fighting game years before Injustice, Extreme Justice, and Justice League Quarterly. Geffen, DeMatteis, and Maguire's concepts were so beloved that the JLI were revisited in several miniseries in the early 2000s, such as formerly known as the Justice League and I Can't Believe It's Not the Justice League. On paper, this concept might not have seemed too goofy to be true, but it was Geffen, DeMatteis, and Maguire who were laughing the most. All the way to the bank, unquote. I'm starting to think there's something we need to look up later.
Yeah.
Item number 4 is a guy I thought of when I think of the greatest creators of the Justice League, Alex Ross. Quote, few artists have had as much of an impact on DC's aesthetic than Alex Ross, whose painted portrayals of the Justice League have been amongst the definitive depictions of the characters for years. Beginning with his work on co-authoring the seminal Elseworld saga Kingdom Come, Ross brought a gravity and humanity to his artwork as an aging Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman returned to the public eye, eager to tamp down an increasingly violent next generation of superheroes. Ross's use of real friends and family members lent a veracity to characters such as the troubled Superman or the enraged Wonder Woman, culminating in a gigantic world-shaking set pieces that evoke the biblical Book of Revelations. Ross later returned to the DC Universe with his acclaimed work with Jim Krueger and Doug Bratwaite, Justice, looking almost like a live-action version of the old Super Friend cartoon, featuring a cavalcade of Justice Leaguers going head-to-head with Lex Luthor, Brainiac, and Gorilla Grodd's Legion of Doom. Ross also collaborated with Batman the Animated Series writer Paul Dini to produce several oversized books featuring members of the Justice League, including Superman, Peace on Earth, Batman, War on Crime, Wonder Woman, Spirit of Truth, and Shazam, Power of Hope, unquote. I have Kingdom Come. When that book came out, I was skeptical. Frickin' love it. If you ever think that there is no way you could ever love DC, if you're just not a DC fan, pick up those books because you will recognize everyone in them. And yeah, the final fight in the 4th issue, and they were basically 4 graphic novels as one story. It's terrifying. Let me put it to you this way. The last battle is two generations of superheroes trying to knock each other the frick out, and at the center of it all is an aging Superman versus an adult Billy Bastion, a.k.a. Shazam.
Yeah, that's the one where he tells Bastion he has to be the one to choose.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, read that one. That was...
I know.
Wow.
I know you read it because I loaned it to you, and you gave me that look of, God, I hate Justice League books. And then 2 weeks later, how much was this?
Yeah, it was just like, wow, okay.
Yeah. Number 3 on this list is Mark Waid. We've read a couple of his stories. He's a very good writer. Quote, Mark Waid ushered the Justice League through some of their greatest stories over the years, particularly as writer of Kingdom Come, which took a look at DC's dystopian future while simultaneously reaffirming all the values the League had come to embody. Yet Waid's examination with artist Alex Ross at the future dynasties of the DC Universe was only the beginning of the writer's tenure with the Justice League. Already I'm scared of him if he wrote Kingdom Come. In 1996, Waid would team up with Fabian Nizia to write Justice League, A Midsummer's Nightmare, which reunited DC's Big Seven lineup to stop Dr. Destiny and No Man, K-N-O-W, Man, from taking over the world. Waid's knowledge of the Justice League and their team dynamics led him to guest writing stints on JLA, including a story about the junior members of the League quashing a resurgence by the White Martians, as well as the iconic Tower of Babel storyline, which showed the League grapple with traps and weaponry designed in secret by a paranoid Batman. The storyline proved to be so popular that it was loosely adapted in 2003 into the animated feature Justice League Doom, unquote. Okay, now I need to read the Tower of Babel. No, Justice League Doom, I mean, I like Justice League animated generally. I think the last couple of years of it have not been good. But Justice League Doom, that was a great one.
Yep.
I really enjoyed that. And if that all came from the Tower of Babel story, need to read. Number 2 on this list is another 3-way tie of Gardner Fox, Mike Sikowski, and Julius Schwartz. Quote, hot off DC's sci-fi reimagining of core characters such as the Flash and Green Lantern, editor Julius Schwartz decided the company's next revamp would be of the Justice Society of America, with writer Gardner Fox and artist Mike Sikowski hired to create the group's adventures. The team, renamed as the Justice League of America, made its debut in 1960, featuring a striking cover of the Flash, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Green Lantern, and the Martian Manhunter battling the alien starfish Starro the Conqueror. The result was a best-selling phenomenon that went on to define teen books, not just at DC Comics, but for superhero comic publishers everywhere. Indeed, the creation of the Justice League did not go unnoticed over at the nascent Marvel Comics, where Stan Lee co-created the Fantastic Four in response to Gardner, Sikowski, and Schwartz's runaway hit. But the building blocks for all things Justice League began with this creative team's 8-year run, including the Big Seven lineup, a team-up with the Justice Society, clashes with Earth 3's Crime Syndicate of America, and the introduction of the prototypical lead sidekick, Snapper Carr, unquote. Not an era I would read, but I will not diminish the importance of that run. And number 1 on Newsarama's list of the 10 greatest Justice League creators of all time is another tie, but it's only between 2 people. Howard Porter and writer Grant Morrison.
Oh, Grant Morrison. Wow.
Yeah. Quote, how do you top the creators of the Justice League on this list? By creating the best Justice League stories ever told. Grant Morrison and Howard Porter's iconic run on JLA might just be considered the platonic ideal of DC Team books, featuring a mix of classic heroes such as Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, with a number of legacy heroes such as Wally West, Kyle Rayner, and Connor Hawke as the Flash. Oh, I'm sorry, as the Flash, Green Lantern, and Green Arrow, respectively. Thank God.
Okay.
I was about to say, wait.
Yeah, that screwed me up reading that. While he was a critical darling for his work on Animal Man and Doom Patrol, it was JLA that cemented Morrison's career as a bankable A-lister. As a writer pushed the Justice League into tense, mind-blowing scenarios, including battling a super team composed entirely of white Martians, a tense interstellar hostage situation introducing the dangerous villain Prometheus, and a time travel epic featuring a dystopian future ruled by Darkseid. Morrison also expanded the League's lineup as similar to a Greek pantheon, adding in heroes such as Steel, Huntress, Big Barda, and Plastic Man to the mix, often with great results. It's a testament to Howard Porter's gifts as an artist that he was able to give Morrison's madcap scripts such a sense of energy and power, with scenes like Superman literally wrestling an angel seemingly exploding off the page. If you can read just one DC Team book in your life, it's hard to think of a better example than Morrison and Porter's run on JLA, unquote. Now that I finished that, I'm going to say I disagree with their top. Morrison's writing to me has often been a mess, and his writing has often been filled with so many religious allegories it makes me tune out. You know, he is the guy responsible for making the JLA constantly rewritten as gods, and that's something I will never relate to in any format. You know, it's just it's always hard for me. And I read the JLA run when it came out in the 90s, and it was not good in my opinion. Even back then, I could not get into it. This was the era when Superman had that super mullet and Aquaman had a hook for a hand, if you recall. That's the time we're talking about.
Okay.
You know, if Mark Waid is the guy that wrote Kingdom Come, I would put him at the top of the list because that's what made DC accessible to me. Well, I mean,
yeah,
you know, even
I have a feeling that Morrison's take was more widely accepted.
I would argue yes, except Morrison was also responsible for certain things like the Infinite Crisis, which just kind of made people tune out in general. You know?
Well, at least for JLA, I think he was...
Yeah. He raised a company, and then he killed it. We'll move on to general comic and convention news. That's where we talk about comics that are not Marvel and DC related, as well as conventions all around the world. There's a convention going on tomorrow. Unfortunately, by the time the show goes up, this convention will be over. But I hope that some people made it out to the New Jersey Comic-Con. It's a one-day show going on August 13th. Oh, no, August 14th, sorry. August 14th. Because they had a host of door prizes that were worthy of people to seek out for a one-day show. And they were giving away at least two door prizes per hour of the show. At 9 a.m., they were giving away early bird coffee mug of the Marvel's Avengers and a Captain America Civil War Marvel Legends Complete Wave. A full wave of Marvel action figures.
Okay.
Ooh, wow.
At 10 a.m., they gave away the Captain America Civil War 3-pack action figures, Big Fight Studio Ultimate Spartan prize package, and a G.I. Joe vs. Transformers San Diego Comic-Con 2016 exclusive box set. The same box as you recall Hasbro is offering. Okay. At 11 a.m., they're giving away Gigapower HQ-03 Gutter metallic version. It's a third-party Transformer. Boss Fight Studio Ultimate Spartan prize package, again. And they're giving away a Transformers Toys R Us version Masterpiece Bumblebee. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's the 12 p.m. prize. The Masterpiece Bumblebee. Okay. At 1 p.m., they're giving away a Lego Toy Fair exclusive grab bag full of Lego goodies, an X-Transbots Boost and Hatch third parties, and a complete wave of Marvel X-Men Legends figures. That's the 2 p.m. prize. And at 3 p.m., they're giving away a Master-Made STD SDT-02 Diabolus Rex Trypticon, a third-party Trypticon. And at 3:30, they're giving away Transformers exclusive Fortress Maximus from Comic-Con 2016.
Those are some big toys right there.
And those are door prizes.
Good Lord.
That's what you get for showing the frick up. Or that's what you could win, I should say.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. James Bond is getting a new comic called Hammerhead. It's supposed to explore the two sides of 007. Both the personal and professional sides of 007. According to the writer, a man named Diggle, quote, Hammerhead is the name of a high-tech weapons system Britain is selling to allies with less than stellar human rights records. The question is, do the ends justify the means? The Cold War made that kind of moral evaluation much simpler. The Soviet Union and SMERSH were the enemy. Nowadays, Bond has to navigate a moral maze where even allies spy upon each other, unquote.
Yeah.
That's very topical. I got to give him that. And another comic adaptation is coming out, although this may matter more to you guys than to me. Warhammer 40K is getting a new series.
Huh.
That's on you, Steve.
It's coming out via the Titans comic imprint. Is being called Will of Iron. It's going to be starting this October. It's based on the course of long-running tabletop games with the same name set thousands of years in the future. The world finds itself on the brink, of the apocalypse, with mankind fighting to save itself and the rest of the known galaxy from the destructive forces of chaos, orcs, and hosts of other alien hostiles. The last time Warhammer had a comic book was Boom Studios in 2006.
Wow.
It's been a decade.
I'm more familiar with their novels. I have not actually read any comic books. I might check this out.
Well, the artists on the book will be Tazio Betton and Enrica Aaron Angolini. The writer will be George Mann, who's best known for his work on Games Workshop's Black Library imprint.
Okay.
There have been some staff changes at some of the smaller comic book companies. Oni Press has hired David Disencaye to become the Portland company's new sales manager. He's replacing Shai Allett and comes to the company after serving as Magnetic Press's Director of Sales and Marketing for 2 years. Dark Horse Associate Editor Hannah Means Shannon is leaving the publisher for personal reasons, it says. Quote, I've been working as an associate editor of Dark Horse for 9 months, having moved to Portland, Oregon from New Jersey to take up that position. In that time, I've worked on over 30 projects, had many books come out into the market that I'm very proud of, and worked with some wonderful people, from fellow editors to comic creators. It's been a huge time of growth in my understanding of the publishing industry and the mechanics of comic storytelling, unquote. I wonder what personal reasons is. Well, semi-controversial artist Frank Cho is returning to create her own comics.
Okay.
He's doing an upcoming series called Skyborn. It's supposed to mash up Arthurian lore with biblical legend as 3 immortal offspring of Lazarus fight over the fabled sword Excalibur with a villainous Merlin. He's not just doing the art, he's doing the writing, too. It's a 5-issue series. It's supposed to debut September 7th. I might just have to check this out, man. Cho's one of my favorite artists. I saw him at Comic-Con. I tried to get a sketch from him, but the only sketches he would do is if you bought one of his books from another booth. I was a little disappointed in that. I would have paid some good money to get a sketch from him. Last up in general comic news, Newsarama has another list, but this one is 10 surefire ways to piss off a comic book reader.
Okay.
Do you want me to read the whole thing or just the highlights?
Highlights, I think.
Okay. Number 10 on their list is retcons.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny that for that particular version, they used the picture of the retcon punch that Superboy Prime used.
It has become infamous. Yeah.
Item number 9 I'm kind of iffy on because I don't know a lot of comic readers who hate this, but, casual people hate it. Event after event. When it seems like events... It all depends. If the events are cool, then it doesn't matter. The only thing I hate is suck story.
Yeah.
My friend that runs the comic shop, he actually hates that. He hates that idea, just event after event after event.
Item number 8, changing a character for the film.
Yeah.
You know, like Michael B. Jordan as the Human Torch and stuff.
Yeah.
Item number 7, unflattering portrayals. I'm not sure this is things that piss off comic book readers so much as things that piss off the internet. Item number 6, unexplained changes. You know, like how Batman's been in existence for 5 years and had 4 Robins.
Yeah.
Item number 5, relaunch again.
52?
They're talking about everything. They point to Marvel and how it seems like they come out with new number 1s every 18 months. I know I've discussed my feeling on it. It makes it easier for me to figure out if I want to continue it if they tell stories in volumes rather than just hope they can stretch it out over untold issues, you know?
Yeah.
It's a little bit more like manga in that way. Item number 4 is more of a DC problem, but it is a general comics issue. Women in refrigerators. Item number 3, perceived diversity for the sake of diversity.
Yeah.
There's some Marvel pictures on that one, right?
Yeah, totally awesome Hulk. Although we read that story last week where comic books are planned like 12 months in advance, and Marvel's diversity line was just a coincidence of stories. You know, different writers pitching different stuff that came out approximately the same time. Item number 2 is a favorite of Steve. Deus Ex Machina.
Yes.
Quote, sure, this literary device can tick off readers of just about any fictional story, but in comic books, even something that resembles a complete surprise will get many fans worked up as they label it a Deus Ex Machina. Never mind that comic books have a long tradition of using the device. For years, Batman's utility belt or Reed Richards' handy devices would act as clever little surprise saviors.
Hate it.
And magical characters like Doctor Strange and Phantom Stranger were always around for a quick last-minute save. But maybe that's the problem, because comic fans have been reading so many stories over the years that anything surprising can be upsetting to the point of outrage. As writer Bill Willingham once explains to Newsarama readers, one of the operative elements of Deus Ex Machina, which is looked upon in writing as a cheat to readers, is that it comes out of nowhere, unquote. No, it doesn't. It comes out of Batman's utility belt.
Yeah.
And item number 1 on Newsarama's list of 10 surefire ways to piss off a comic book reader, sexism in comics. Should I read that one?
That's not one for me, but that's because, you know, I don't really concern myself with it. But yeah, go ahead and read it.
Okay. Quote, let's face it, the comic book community, particularly the online comic book community, has become a lot more female over the last couple decades. But for some reason, it's taking publishers a while to change the type of imagery it slaps on the covers, and sometimes the interiors of the comic. When Starfire was introduced in the New 52 with barely any clothing and dialogue that implied she was sexually promiscuous and seemingly a little mentally vacuous, readers of both genders expressed concern, and the company's relaunch itself had fans and creators alike wondering why more women didn't work in comic books. But recent allegations about sexism on comic book covers like Teen Titans, Spider-Woman, and this pulled before publication Batgirl cover have practically led to wars between creators, bloggers, and commenters who disagree about what constitutes a sexist image. Whatever the outcome of the current topic, the issue isn't going to go away anytime soon. And many female comic readers, and there are a lot of us, are hoping someday the discussion will be archaic because comic books will end the objectification of women that was previously all too common, unquote.
It kind of makes sense.
It does make sense.
Why
however,
one is what it is, considering who wrote it.
Yeah. It's one of those cases where, as we discussed, comic book stories and planning take months, if not a full year. It's not something that's going to happen quickly. So when people complain about crap online, they never seem to understand why things don't change in that iota.
Right. You know, it's like, change now. Things don't change now.
Yeah. You need time to conceptualize and get a good story out. You don't just, snap your fingers and get a story.
It's not like that's the only issue. You know, there was a definite lack of women creators in comics. That number has come up recently, and more stories are more inclusive to women, it's a good thing. But again, it takes time to produce a comic book. It takes time for things to come around to a point where people find it socially acceptable. And Marvel had to deal with this kind of on the back end because the movies brought a lot of people into the comic books I think they weren't expecting, really.
Well, and I think the other thing, too, is, all these people are screaming, change now, and then you've got the majority of people that have been reading all this time going, change what? Why?
Yeah. It's one of those cases where it's like just about any kind of item where people socially disagree, is that you'll have a segment of the populace trying to drive the whole conversation to their point of view while the rest of us are still trying to catch up and go, wait, what's the problem?
Yeah.
Talk to us first because we'll listen. We just need to know what the problem is. Yelling about change without actually having a discussion about what needs to be changed and for the reasons is not productive.
Yeah, because, if you just knee-jerk, and just, boom, we concede to all your demands, and we immediately change everything, it's like, okay, you just pissed off all the people that weren't aware that there was a problem. You just pissed off a bunch of people that are like, okay, so you didn't even get us involved in the conversation. You're completely capitulating to these people. It's the squeaky wheel.
Yeah.
You cannot affect positive change.
Look at it this way. Change has been coming for a while. We're no longer in the 90s in the era of the French cut bikini uniform anymore.
Yeah, well, God knows, what was the... I still remember reading one of the old Fantastic Four comics, and Reed Richards is sitting there like... tells the Invisible Woman, oh yeah, go out and buy yourself something nice, and have a good time or whatever, before you come home and make me dinner, and all this. And I'm just like, yeah, no. Wow. But that was produced back in like the 50s or 60s. So of course, that's the norm. We don't do that stuff anymore. But,
no. But it's a loaded conversation too, because when a lot of people scream for change, like when people scream about the need for more women and more diversity in comics. Is there a need for that? Yes. However, we can't just throw people of a specific gender or ethnicity into comic book creation. They actually have to, A, work their way up, and B, produce great stories to be recognized. It's not a matter of being recognized for your race. It's a matter of being recognized for your writing. Yeah. If there happens to be more white men writing better books, they're the ones that will get the attention, not because they're white men, but because they wrote the better books.
That's the thing. You don't just throw somebody in there just to fill a quota. That, it's not going to work.
No.
You can do that. You can certainly do that. They've done it before. Affirmative action, other things like that. But it ends up causing more problems than it ends up solving. Because you're not affecting positive change. You're just changing things so that it seems more fair.
Yeah. And last up, we have our WTF Corner. Those are the stories from across the internet that just make you really ask, seriously, man, the fuck? Again, no video game videos this week. There was a cosplayer that was arrested for bringing a gun on a train. His name was William Morris. He goes by... well, we'll get into that. His name is William Morris. He's known as Billy. He was on his way to a cosplay shoot, of all things, in New York City. It was Saturday of last week. Of course, if he's going to a cosplay shoot, he's going to cosplay, so he hopped on a train. He probably shouldn't have had his cosplay rifle outside of a frickin' bag or any other carrying case when he was on the goddamn train. He was dressed up as Colonel Rick Flag from the Suicide Squad, and he had a modded air rifle, but very real-looking air rifle, out in the open when he got on the train.
Yep. Wait, I got past the check-in terminals?
Have you ever been on a subway in New York? There are no check-in terminals. There's just gates where you either flash a badge or drop a token and walk through.
Huh.
According to the New York Post...
got like turnstiles or something like that.
That's usually the case. There may be a lady behind a booth, but her job is not really to stop people. Her job is to say, how many tokens do you need? What kind of change do you need? Crap like that. According to the New York Post, Morris was initially greeted by passengers saying he shouldn't have the prop on the train, to which he tried to explain he was cosplaying, and that's when the police boarded the train, saw what he was holding, and shit got real. According to him, quote, they pushed me to the ground. It was slightly terrifying because at that point, I had no idea what was going on. Nothing like this ever happened to me. I didn't think it would get out of hand, unquote. Seriously, dude?
You have a realistic-looking gun in a subway car.
I'm a cosplayer, and I like taking airsoft stuff to shoots when the characters involve it. However, when I'm walking from location to location, I have a bag. All that stuff is in the bag. I don't want anyone seeing it because I don't need to get shot for other people's mistakes. And granted, Billy is a white kid, so he may have gotten off light compared to other people of other ethnicities doing the same thing. However, at the same time, never, ever carry an airsoft gun in the open into a public space. It is a recipe for disaster. Anything else?
He didn't
Don't be stupid.
As we know, anime sometimes has interesting marketing ploys to go with it, and we've seen a couple characters, including like the entire line of Sailor Moon lingerie and bathing suits.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't end there, man. Do you remember the series Triple X Holic?
Yes.
No.
I'm not familiar.
Clamp.
Okay. That explains half of it right
God.
there. Yeah. Well, it's getting its own lingerie line.
Okay.
Oh, wonderful.
This is being produced by clothing provider Super Groupies. I sent you guys a link to the website. I found the story via Sankaku Complex. It's not fancy. If it wasn't told to me it was Triple X Holic, I wouldn't know that this is a lingerie based on it. It's black lace with a lot of red ribbons that forms a lot of X's in it when people are wearing it, apparently.
Yeah.
It's a lingerie and camisole.
Note, the anime or manga origins.
Doesn't really stick out. Maybe if I was more familiar. This does seem vaguely familiar when I think about Triple X Holic. I know the butterflies are part of it, and there's butterflies on the camisole.
It has a very gothic and goth lolly feel to it with some of the characters and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, pre-orders are up for it right now through the end of November. Products will be delivered near the end of January.
Yeah, it is very similar to the witch.
Yeah,
especially with the girl holding the prop with the old
the cigarette holder.
Pipe.
Yeah, that's a cigarette holder. You can order it now if you know someone that wants to wear it, or if you want to wear it. I don't know. Occasionally, I assume women listen to the show. There was a Futurama fan film that somebody was making, if you guys recall. Some of the props were out there at the Comic-Con floor.
Yeah, I got to talking with them for a little bit.
Yeah, the filmmakers recently showed a small video of a puppet they were making for the show. Oh my god, dude, they are making a Hypnotoad.
I saw that damn thing.
They featured it on a video of Adam Savage's Tested. You want to see what they were working on?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. I sent the video. Adam Savage's Tested. Special project. There it is. That's the Comic-Con floor, actually.
Yep. They pulled the thing out of the case.
Yep. Take a look at those eyes.
Yep.
Yeah.
You notice that every way it turns, it's looking at you, right?
Yeah.
I'm not interested in the fan film myself. Futurama, for me, was always kind of hit or miss.
I'm curious enough.
You notice how people are stopping because they notice the camera?
Yeah.
The LEDs need to fill the eyes a little more. That's my only complaint about it, is when they turn it certain ways, you can see the edges of the OLEDs.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All hail the Hypnotoad. Sorry, I got caught up in the OLEDs. What happened? So I won't go any further with the video because you get the gist of it. But it's an impressive puppet. I do like what they did there.
Yeah, especially, you can turn the head a little bit and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, the eyes follow you. It's a very impressive build. It could use a little tweaking. I just don't know what kind of schedule they were under. We've talked before about the Steven Universe fandom. There's a segment of the fandom that is a pain in the ass. There's certain people who think that if you're not... Yeah, there's certain people who think if you're not a certain color, you shouldn't cosplay like Garnet or Amethyst. There's other people who think that unless you're transgender, you don't even belong watching the series at all. which is wonderfully...
What the hell?
Yeah, that's a wonderful message from fans of one of the most inclusive series I've ever seen in my life. But the latest... This will be the second time I know of that the Steven Universe fandom, well, not all of it, again, a toxic segment of it, has turned against one of the creators of the show. They've turned against the creator of the show before. Now they turned against one of the storyboard artists, Lauren Zook. She went to Twitter, and she posted a few storyboards. And they were all of the two later characters in the show, Peridot and Lapis Lazuli, apparently palling around a little bit and attempting to be friends. And Lauren Zook herself is a fan of the idea of Lapidot, the two actually having a more than friendly relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, people who are fans of Amadot, people who think Peridot and Amethyst from the show should have a relationship, actually got on her case.
Oh, God.
This
is stuff you find on Reddit or Tumblr.
Yeah, they said she was showing favoritism from one ship over another, as they put it. They also accused her of queer-baiting. According to some people, queer-baiting means teasing queer fans with a possible relationship that never comes to fruition. And I'm going to stop using the word ship, because every time I say that, I feel like I'm playing Battleship. According to others, queer-baiting is bringing up a character's sexual orientation to encourage homophobic attacks against them. The reason why that's bullshit is because Lauren Zook is an out-of-the-closet gay woman. But she got so many toxic comments that she shut down her Twitter, and there's no word as to whether or not she plans on doing it again. Unfortunately for Steven Universe fans, she was also running another Twitter where she was posting supposedly as the character Peridot and just posting, random stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, so, it's a segment of fandom destroying things for other fans, yeah.
Some people on my Facebook feed have actually said, okay, now you're coming up to Homestuck levels of stupid.
I still don't know what the fuck Homestuck is.
Neither do I. I haven't been able to get into it because it went on too long by the time I found it, and there are segments of that fandom that just irritate the piss out of me, so I haven't bothered.
Yeah.
However, you know what? People need to stop, because just because you enjoy something doesn't mean you own it. I've been an X-Men fan for almost 3 decades now. That doesn't mean I am the end-all, be-all of X-Men fan. I want more people to come in and talk X-Men with me. Just because you feel that the show was made for transgenders doesn't mean it was made solely for transgenders. The best shows they feel like they're made for everybody.
Yeah.
And this is, I'm sorry, I just want to say, this is one of the few cartoons that I can sit down and watch with my wife and my kids, and none of us feel like we were lost or left out or bored. We're all entertained by the show. That's freaking rare.
Yeah, I understand, there is that segment of fandom where it's just like, you know what, I love this so much that, it becomes, whatever it is for that person. But at the same time, you have to let it be accessible to other people, because if it's just for you, guess what? It's going away, because, no one, especially the creators, the creator, they make it for themselves. Okay, you've got a point there. But if you as a fan is saying, no, this is mine, I should have, no, it doesn't work that way.
There's a byline here, though, because the people that were attacking Lauren Zook had this image in their head of where they felt the character should go. If you are not writing the show itself, shut up.
No control.
There are other people that have been paid to write this show, and they've done so with aplomb, and they've done so in a very loving fashion. You have no right to dictate to them how the show is written. If they keep writing it in such a fantastic fashion, it's going to appeal to a lot of people, and we'll just see what happens. That's the idea of these shows. You don't know what's going to happen. You're tuning in next week because you have no idea where the show's going. That's the point.
Yeah. And you can, ship whoever you want. You can come up with all these theories and everything else, but if it doesn't conform,
fan fiction.
That's their story.
Do your fan fiction. Do your fan art. That's what the internet was created for Christ's sakes. But get off their asses.
Yeah, and man, I don't know.
It's a level of dumb that.
Well, it's entitlement.
Yes, there we go.
It's not entitlement, it's delusion.
No, it is. It's total entitlement. They feel they're entitled to their opinion, their, version of events over anyone else.
See, to me, that's not entitlement, that's delusion. They believe that their headcanon is canon.
Yeah. And so I can understand the delusion standpoint too, but no, they feel that they're entitled to their opinion over anyone else, including the freaking creator.
Internet.
Well, there's another guy, unfortunately, who actually is delusional. He is delusional, frankly. He waited in 10 days in a Chinese airport. His name is Alexander Sirk. He's a 41-year-old Dutch man. He nearly died at that airport waiting.
Okay.
He'd been waiting for his girlfriend. He had been corresponding with a 26-year-old Chinese woman. He knew her by her surname, Zhang. He had only talked to her over the internet. Over a social networking app, actually. So Mr. Sirk applied for a visa and went to China, sent Zhang a picture of his flight information. Supposedly, Zhang said over the app that she didn't quite comprehend what he sent her. And he arrived and waited to meet her.
For 10 days.
For 10 days. He was practically living at Changsha Airport. And while he was there, I guess he didn't eat or... He didn't take care of himself. He was hospitalized for fatigue, malnutrition, and inactivity.
Okay.
And unfortunately for him, Zhang also came up with several reasons why she wouldn't be able to make it. So there is a potentiality that this Zhang person doesn't quite exist.
Yeah.
You know, the absence of any person showing up to even show an interest when he'd been talking to her for who knows how long over the app.
Well, that is kind of the question, though.
Yeah,
how long?
He might have been baited. It may have just been someone playing with him, and he took it a little too seriously. He has been released from the hospital, and Mr. Sirk has flown back home, having one of the worst vacations a man has ever taken, I'm sure.
Yeah, having had an internet relationship before, be careful.
Yeah. This is an interesting story that just came out today via Snopes. This man is named Gary Hoy. He's a 38-year-old lawyer with the Toronto law firm of Holden Day Wilson. He had apparently developed a fondness for showing off the tensile strength of office building windows.
Oh, no.
He would run and hurl himself at window panes in front of onlookers. It always ended with him bouncing off the window panes. You know, he was unharmed, the glass was unharmed. Right? In 1993, he did this again in front of prospective legal apprentices, and he went straight through the window and down 24 stories.
Oh.
The reason why this came up was because Snopes is a website that often debunks, bad rumors on the internet. Mm-hmm. Somebody decided to ask about a rumor they heard about a man in Toronto who fell out of a window because he was just trying to show off how strong it was, and this is a true story from 1993.
Yeah. Man.
I read that, and I'm just like, as soon as I read the headline, man fell to his death by showing off tensile strength of windows, I'm like, okay, fine. And 90% of the stories I read on Snopes are all bullcrap of varying degrees. Sometimes it's half-truths, but it often is not truths. In this case, this is one of those weird stories that's absolutely true. Bet he wishes he could sue that window maker. Another weird story that apparently is true on the internet because there's video of it, also from Snopes. You know that dolphins are thieves?
Okay.
On August 7th of this year, a woman went to SeaWorld in Orlando, Florida. They were standing around the dolphin tank. She was trying to take a picture with her iPad. Apparently, the dolphin either decided that he didn't like pictures or he was really eager to play Angry Birds because he snatched that iPad right out of her hands. You want to see what that looks like?
Yeah.
Let's see what thieving marine mammals look like.
Lady, when I said no pictures, I meant no pictures.
I sent the video. And takes it right out of her hands. They're just floating on top of the water.
Oh, but she got it back.
Yeah, but her phone was in that pack too, I think. Saw her pick it up. Dolphins are entertained, aren't they? Just said, ha!
Hey, now I watching?
Now I can catch a Squirtle in the tank. No, give it back! Well, her vacation took a turn, didn't it?
Yep.
I would say poor her, except you're standing next to a frickin' dolphin tank with an iPad. There's reasons why
to be playful.
Well, there's reasons why anytime I visit a marine park, my phone stays in my back pocket. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. It might have been the color.
Maybe. It was very noticeable, that pink cover it had. But I do have one more video, and it's also animal-related I'd like to show you guys. It's a different type of WTF because, happy and cute WTFs are kind of rare when it comes to us, I've noticed.
Okay.
Check out this video of animal hijinks between a kitten and a full-grown husky.
Oh, dear.
I sent
this is gonna be cute, isn't it?
Oh, it's gonna be good. I sent the video.
All right, little cat standing behind the dog. Dog is
It's a little Siamese
drinking.
cat. It's a rare one, too. Yeah, you notice that dog's just like,
camera.
What the frick are you? Never mind. I don't care. I just want to drink. I got your leg! Ha ha ha! Get off. Well, cat
Totally
rolls away
like
like a ninja, too. Ninja finish!
It's almost like chi.
Every time I get a beer, somebody just runs up and
And
does that.
too late.
Get off! You know what? I'm
This
just going to
dog
ignore
is
you
gonna
now. I
step
don't care.
on him.
I don't care anymore. Yeah, bite my ankle. I don't care. You're not. You don't exist. Look at that, just gnawing on the ankle. Aha! I captured it. Now kill it.
God.
Ooh, what's this?
Tail. Oh no, and
nope. Back to the leg.
I hope
can
that
reach
dog's
this.
been neutered.
Get off. Go for the other
leg.
one. I'm not done with my beer, kid. Go away. Seriously.
God.
Ninja finish. Thank
I am
God.
thirsty. Let me drink.
Maybe now I can actually finish something. Like every time I
Alright,
try
where's
to
the
do
little
something.
ankle biter?
Oh, there it is, underneath the
Back
chair.
under the chair again.
It's planning.
And
What is its master plan for this attack? Oh,
none.
There isn't anything.
Aw.
Okay.
Aw.
Ended there. We're all trying to make it Machiavellian, and it just ends on a flat note. Well, there is a story that Screen Rant handed, the 15 WTF unused superhero designs. There was a bunch of weird and interesting ones, like the fact that the Falcon in Marvel movies, before he had those wings, they designed him with like mini airplane wings and jets. I don't know why you would do that. An Alex Ross design for the 2002 Spider-Man film that ended up being reused as a superior Spider-Man. Interesting little bit of history there. The ugly idea of spandex that they had for Wolverine in the original film, as well as Tim Burton's original design for Robin. Dear God, no.
Oh,
but I brought this... I initially decided to scrap this story because it would take too long to get through, except there was one item at the end that as soon as I saw it, I was freaking horrified. The most WTF design on this list, believe it or not, is for Rorschach from The Watchmen.
Oh.
okay.
Not the movie necessarily, but the original Alan Moore design for Rorschach was freaking scary because that Rorschach mask, think of it as a body-wide effect, except for some bell-bottoms and this blue trench coat that he would open up to reveal the pattern like he was flashing people. I stared at that and just thought, could
It
you
doesn't
imagine
even
that
look
thing?
like a trench coat. It looks like a bathrobe.
I know. Could you imagine that thing on his face stretching down his body and then he opens up his coat to reveal that? Dude, I would lose my shit.
Not to mention the fact that he's actually got, those, like, fake pant legs.
Yeah, the bell-bottom thing's going on at the bottom. I don't get that.
So it looks like he's actually wearing something else. Hey, I got something to show you.
Yeah,
I'm just terrified of the face I'm looking at right there.
I'm a living Rorschach test. Tell me, kids, does this look like Bill Cosby to you? What the frick, man? Thank God he had that suit at the end. Seriously. Oh, no, bad. Bad Alan Moore.
Oh, wow.
And last up in our WTF corner, we love going to outofcontextdnd.tumblr.com for out-of-context D&D quotes. When people say things during the game that when you take it out of context, take a completely different meaning. How many are we doing this week?
I'm kind of wondering, in context.
How many do we want this week, 10 or 20?
10.
Let's do 10, this week.
Okay. Quote number 1. Congratulations, you have bought a folding gazebo.
Still haven't found a magic item.
Quote number 2. No, I don't want to fuck cake. I want to eat it.
Oh. Alright, someone's Drax.
That sounds like a horrible wedding. The next
It's
quote
got a
is
cream
actually
filling for you, honey.
The next quote is two people talking to each other. You smell that? That's the smell of justice. I think that's the smell of dead goblins.
I could see some characters having that conversation.
Actually, the next quote number 4, is again two people talking to each other. Aw, look at him. He's just a cute little lizard. He's evil. He killed 8 people. Oh, but look at his smile.
I'm thinking that's the GM talking to one of the players.
Actually, there's another one here. The 5th one is two people talking to each other. Dorn is dead, guys. So he's dead as a dorn nail?
Oh.
Boo! Boo!
Oh.
The next quote is a dirge singer. I'm not allowed to raise the dead, but he gets a puppy. How is that fair?
What?
I'm not sure what a dirge singer is.
I think that's a
archetype for a bard.
Yeah.
Okay. The next quote is definitively a DM. It actually says this. I need you to roll for Christmas.
Roll for Christmas.
Roll for Christmas.
Okay.
The next quote is identified as a cleric, and he must have been having a terrible frickin' day. I want to guess he was trying to cook with this quote, because there's no explanation for what was happening here. Don't you dare fucking dodge, you chaotic neutral cabbage!
Sounds like they're dealing with ravenous plant creatures.
The next quote was 3 people talking. A DM, a druid, and a ranger. You probably know more about Vecna than I do at this point. Yeah, I definitely do. Does that really worry anybody else, or is that just me? Quote number 10. Yay, we've traveled back in time by starving to death.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Actually, I want to go to 20 because there's some weird ones in here. I just hit the next page.
Okay.
Shoot. Go.
Okay. The next quote is a fighter who apparently is bothering a cleric who is very bothered by a fighter. And I'm going to read this in as much character as I can. I will punch you. Then I will heal you. Then I will pray.
Paladin or cleric?
Yeah,
I said it was a cleric bothered by a fighter. The next one has no character information behind it, but it must have been one of those days where somebody was getting creative. All it says is, Fear the shovel! The next quote was some guy trying to play a character and some other guy playing an asshole. My character's a gnome barbarian. Known for what exactly?
Although I did like my gnome barbarian. She was cute.
The next one is a bard trying to explain his weapon to a dungeon master. It isn't an evil death sword. It's a chaotic neutral death sword.
That is important.
The next quote has no context put to it whatsoever other than somebody trying to name something. We can name it Mercurio's Wiggly Butt. Mercurio's Wiggly Butt is getting larger. Mercurio's Wiggly Butt is going to flatten Hycinia.
Yeah, that's somebody picking on somebody else's character.
Okay, this was an interesting question. I like it because it adds a little bit of explanation as well as a little bit of mystique. Does the goblin count as a difficult terrain?
If you would ask that question.
I would.
Next quote. I frantically checked the dwarf for traps.
Sounds like something Kirk would say if he ever played a rogue.
Yeah.
Actually, this next one sounds like something Kirk would say in just about every game. Yeah, but losing your face is not lethal damage.
Okay, Joker.
The next one is a DM and a player who are both trying to talk to the same player. Take 8 physical damage and 5 emotional.
Ouch.
And the last one, oh my God. There's actually two more I got to read here. One, can I seduce the machine spirit with modem noises?
All right, we're doing a modern game here.
And the last quote from Out of Context D&D in this latest group, he's a guard dog, not a tracker. He knows growl, bite, and Jessica taught him kisses.
That's pretty good.
Subject of the week is Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con 2016. We just want to talk about it because it felt like, even though we've been interviewed about it, it didn't feel like everybody knew what to ask us about it. So I figured the best way to talk about it would just be sequentially over the course of the days. If we just talk about it more as an anthology instead of bouncing around, maybe we'll have a better picture as to what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the first item here obviously would be Arrival, and that would involve the hotel. We stayed at the Hilton Harbor Island, a.k.a. the San Diego Airport Hilton.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit of a problem because the registration system changed to a lottery system. We were not prepared for that kind of change, and the system we had in place, a.k.a. me typing as fast as possible, was not going to be as much help as it usually is.
Unfortunately.
So we ended up outside the gas lamp for the first time as a group. And I will say the San Diego, or the Hilton Airport out there, I would say is the best compromise we could possibly make.
Yeah, and honestly, as the hotel itself, I mean, we had an awesome view of
the military base.
And just the water out there. Tons of boats going on.
I know, I'm being a little bit prickly about it, but, we did have a view right over Coronado military base.
Yeah. There was a lot of helicopter activity and some actual naval ships, going through and whatnot. I don't know.
The hotel was nice, though, on several accounts. One, the rooms were very spacious.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You could fit like 8 people, 4 in the beds, 4 on the floor in there, and still not step on each other. They're amazingly large for what they are.
I'd say comfortable 6, sardines would be, well, not quite sardines, but yeah, 8 would be pushing it.
I didn't say I want to, I just said could.
Yeah.
It had decent closet space. The bathrooms were nice because they actually had ventilation. It was hard to steam the damn things up.
Mm.
And the fact that every room had a small balcony built for 2 people was a very nice touch.
Yeah.
And the astonishing thing is, for being between a military base and an airport, as soon as you close that sliding glass door, you could barely hear anything going on outside.
I heard the fireworks. That was about it.
A plane would have to have a pretty bad landing for you to hear anything going on. That's a nice touch.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of an issue with the water, though. 2 days in a row, I took very cold showers because there just didn't seem to be any hot water coming out of there.
I can only assume it was the time of day that you were doing it, because every single time, except for one time, I had, completely hot water to the point where I had to, turn it down at one point.
Yeah, the first 2 days, I turned that water up in every way I could find, and the water just never became hot.
Hmm.
After the first couple of days, it got better. I don't know if maybe there was a problem just with the boiler working our particular section of the hotel, but I could not get hot water out of that thing. I tried.
I just had an issue with the shower head itself was very weak, but that
the shower pressure was not
common. Cool. It seems to be a very common situation in most hotels.
Well, it's California. It's a heavy drought, especially in Southern California, and a lot of people installed low-pressure shower heads. But, again, the hotel was the best compromise because while the shuttle ride was long, it was very consistent. It's not like we had to wait a whole lot of extra time. And, frankly, door-to-door shuttle service in a convention like Comic-Con is not a bad deal.
Yeah. And it really was pretty much door-to-door. You, walked out the door, walked down to the sidewalk, boom, there it was.
Yeah. It was very regular, too. I didn't have to wait very long on any particular day for the shuttle.
I saw one at one particular time. Thankfully, I was up in the hotel room looking down, and it was 45 minutes late.
Ooh.
And I was just like, yeah, I'll wait for the first one to show up. And actually, 2 showed up at once. And then I went ahead and went down and got on. The next one was perfectly right on time.
Okay. What about you, Jesse? Anything to say about the hotel or the shuttles?
I wish we were closer.
Okay.
Yeah, it is nicer to be closer to, in the gas lamp within walking distance. But honestly, with the way that they do their shuttles, I really didn't have an issue.
Yeah, NBC floats a lot of the money for the shuttles in addition to an $8 a day charge, and all Comic-Con block hotel rooms. And for the type of service we get, $40 is not a bad trade-off. So day zero, preview night was the usual for me. Only about a third of the people going to Comic-Con in total got badges for preview night. Makes it a very easy night to shop, feel out the room, and get a lot of the exclusives you're looking for. I probably could have gotten more exclusives if I honestly knew I was going to have the money for it, but I'm like most people. I work on a budget. But that first night, I got like 90% of the stuff I wanted to get done. I talked to artists. I talked to Desert Wind Comics for a little while. I visited personally. I probably visited about 15 booths in addition to walking 90% of the floor. Got a good look at everything I wanted to see. Preview night is the best night to shop. It absolutely is. If you guys can make it for one, I highly recommend it. Because it's low pressure. With only a third of Comic-Con allowed in the building at that time, it's easy getting around the most parts of the floor. You get a little jammed up in high-traffic sections, the Hasbro booth, the Marvel booth, and stuff like that. The Warner Brothers booth is always busy. Day one. Day one is always kind of difficult in conventions because a lot of the systems, even if people have been doing it for years, when they're just getting started, there's always hiccups. And registration wasn't... They mailed us badges, so registration really wasn't a problem. Picking up our reg packs, though, on day one for Jesse was a little bit of an issue.
I got lost.
Well, there's two places to pick up reg packs. There's the Salus Pavilion above the convention center, and there's the place we went, outside the Pacific Ballroom, the new section of the Marriott Marquis Marina next door to the convention center.
Mm-hmm.
They actually had us wait outside for a little bit. We were probably out there for about 20 minutes before the line started moving, but when it started moving, it moved fast.
Yeah.
And it's the same type of thing where just when it seems like you're about to lose your patience is when everything keeps running to the point where you barely stop.
Yeah.
Picking up the lanyards and the bags are easy when they don't have to hand out badges at all, unless you're registering a child like I did, or you somehow did not get your badge, or you're in Europe and they can't send you a badge. But, I got a new appreciation for panels at Comic-Con this year. They had a lot of great panels, although the one thing I found out is that I should not go to comic news panels anymore. This show keeps me so well informed. Going to the news panels, I found out the same things I already knew.
Mm.
I'm not saying you guys can't go because I'm the comics maven, I guess, but I didn't get any new information I thought I would get.
Right.
I saw a few extra pages, but those are coming out in the comic books anyway. I was kind of hoping to see some creators or get a little bit of news I hadn't heard before, and I just didn't find that.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you're better off going to maybe the
entertainment
or
the TV and entertainment panels, dude. I found out a ton of things I'd never heard of before. Those are still very worthwhile for me.
Mm.
Shoot. Okay, what did we do day one? Because I know we did the G. Willow Wilson, Peter David panels. I did that with Jesse.
Yep.
Both were entertaining, despite the snoring. For those that don't know, Jesse had a hell of a day that morning for some reason. He fell asleep during the first two panels we went to.
I had a massive migraine. It was killing me. And the only way for me just to deal with it without groaning and moaning is just to knock myself out.
Okay. I wanted to poke you a few times. I just didn't know if that would make it louder or if you would even respond. So
I might have jumped, but...
Yeah. But they were good panels. They were good storytellers, both of them. Got selfies with both of them. That's kind of a highlight of my weekend, frankly, out of a lot of highlights. I
was kind of disappointed we weren't able to get into the Voltron panel, but we had to eat.
Well, we needed to go get lunch, and when we came back, we found out that not only was the room full just before the panel started, but there was a line out there that could have refilled the room.
Yep.
That panel
apparently
was
pretty popular.
Oh, that was an incredible demand for that, man. Comic-Con really underguessed people that wanted to see that show.
It probably should have been put in Hall H. Or not Hall H, but...
no, I don't think Hall H.
The one upstairs?
What, Ballroom 20?
Ballroom 20?
Yeah, Ballroom 20.
No,
Ballroom 20.
I would have said this would have been more like a 6DE situation. 6BDE? It's like a medium-sized room. That would have held everybody that was out there. I haven't heard of any spectacular news that came out of that panel other than them formally announcing that Season 2 of Voltron Legendary Defender is coming.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thought it was coming, but nobody had said anything until the panel.
It hasn't actually started being produced yet, though, right?
I do not know.
Well, I'm pretty sure they have at least one episode produced because they always leave one hang-up episode from the previous season for to start up the next.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything that came out of the panel. I'm kind of surprised as many people were there. It didn't even seem like the bloggers got in. It seemed like just a bunch of people who went to listen. So I don't have a whole lot of solids out of that. Let's see, where did we eat that day? We went to eat at Jolton Joe's, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yes, after we found that the Chinese place was
Lucky Lou's is closed
permanently.
and gone. Yeah, Lucky Lou's is gone, just like the Declan is gone.
That just still shocks the hell out of me. They just remodeled.
I know. I'm confounded by that as well. I'm surprised if they were shut down. I'm surprised they weren't entirely bought out so somebody else could move in. I'm astonished. Let me see. We did order from the donut bar. We ordered donuts from there and got that, and that lasted us the weekend for frick's sake.
Yeah.
I didn't actually touch the donuts. I was afraid to.
I had one.
Because you have the sugar issue.
Yeah, I try to avoid sugar generally, but it's Comic-Con weekend. I'm supposed to be trying out things, and I wanted to see if it was as good as I remember. I think they've gotten better.
Yeah, it really wasn't bad. They were definitely best the first day, obviously. Given it was stale, but
yeah. Let's see what else. I went to 2 or 3 comic news panels that really underwhelmed, like Death of X and Civil War. Civil War's the next panel. Luke Cage panel was awesome, man. They brought out the stars. They showed off like several people playing key players, including Copperhead, Misty Knight. Everybody was out there except for Rosario Dawson, who it turns out was working on another series. Not the Netflix Marvel stuff, but she's a busy lady right now at this point in her career. So she just couldn't be there. But listening to Coulter talk real life, it's amazing. He is that imposing in real life.
I have to say, I was pretty impressed. Just I went to go stand in line because I wasn't sure if you were going to be able to get there, and I actually moved through the entire line, and you ended up calling me and saying, "Oh yeah, I'm in line right now," and I was like, "Oh, okay," I didn't have to get back into line because it actually moved me all the way through the line. I was going to have to go get back in line, and I probably could have made it in there anyway. That is a really large room.
The thing is, though, Ballroom 20 is the second largest venue there. It looks like it seats about, if I had to guess, I'd say about maybe 1,500 people.
And more.
I'm trying to be conservative here because I don't want to overblow it. But the thing is, though, after moving through the entirety of that line, I got in line, about an hour before the panel. I still only barely got into the back of the room.
Really?
There were still that many people in there.
So
there was a few people who waded through a couple panels to get to the Cage panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like my experience when I got to the Killing Joke panel.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably, at that point, I probably could have gotten a pretty good seat when I moved through, but I was holding the place for you, so that wasn't going to work.
Yeah, and it was almost creepy to sit down in that room because as I sat down, there was a countdown clock that had like 5 minutes left on it. And all I could do was take a picture of it and post it on Instagram and post, "What does this mean?" No, it was a groovy panel, and I think panels is what Comic-Con does best, really. The exhibit halls and the exclusives are a big draw, admittedly, but panels and news and presentations is where Comic-Con really... It's where it earns that $200 badge. See, that was most of my day one.
Yeah, I kind of, right around 5 or 6, I kind of checked out, realized I was exhausted. I couldn't make to some of the panels I wanted to go to that night.
I was tired at that point, but I still had one panel on my schedule, but it was a Dr. Horrible sing-along blog. It happens every year. I wanted to go to it with my wife and daughter, but they were both exhausted by then, too.
Yeah,
so
I wanted to go to the Overwatch panel, and I realized, as more information I'm hearing about it, I think I already know everything they're going to talk to, so I said, I'm going to go to bed.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, one of our roommates had a bad adventure that day. That was the day Rosie's backpack was stolen.
Yeah. You hear about it, and then it happens to somebody you know, and you're just like, damn it.
Yeah, she apparently was sitting on a bench outside Comic-Con. She had a Sunday badge, but she was doing all the third-party stuff during the first 3 days. At least that was her plan. So when she sat down on Thursday to have a cigarette break, she put her backpack next to her. Somebody just casually walked by, and as soon as he was by her, he grabbed her pack and ran. She reported it to the con staff and police. She filled out a report, and we will say it had a happy ending. The police the following day found her bag hastily stashed, so they think the guy was spooked, and it was only missing a little bit of the money she had with her. So he didn't even have a chance to go through it fully. So her ID, her medication, probably, I'd say 80 to 90% of her money was all still in the bag. And I did get a contact from her afterwards because we mailed it to her after the convention, my wife and I. She didn't respond for a few days, so I finally just sent her another text and phone message, hey, hadn't heard from you, did you get your stuff? And she finally said, yes, thank you so much, you guys are great, really hope we can be roommates next year.
She was a nice lady. I was so bummed when it ended up happening to her.
I know, she was, you could tell there was something a little bit different about her. I'm not going to say bad, just different. She was very sunny, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just something that was difficult to put your finger on, and I only got to know her for 24 hours, but for that 24 hours, you know, she was a respectful roommate, kept her stuff clean, did her best to stay out of people's ways, but, you know, if you asked her to hang out, she didn't shy away. If you asked her for help, she was willing to do it because she didn't have anything planned at that particular time. She almost an ideal roommate from what I knew.
Mm.
You know, but yeah, day one ended kind of earlier than any of us expected to due to a combination of fatigue and some of us just going, maybe it's a good idea. Day two was a lot busier. Sorry?
I'll say, is that the day where we attempted the Hasbro line?
Yes, it was. We found out that getting in line at 5:30 was not early enough.
That scares me.
Yeah. I did manage to do my Hasbro shopping, a combination of that Friday and on day 3, but I'm not going to go through the details. It was disappointing, but at the same time, we also managed to we did manage to get more stuff done that morning. I mean, I went to the Civil War II panel, which again turned out to be a little disappointing because due to a combination of the news we read and the comic books that I'd read up to that point, I knew everything already.
Mm.
Yeah, for me, after...
Yeah, I'm not going to sit there and say they did a bad job. I just may be over-informed for these.
No, when we got done with the Hasbro thing and went through our disappointment and parted ways, I ended up going to the Salus Pavilion so I get my ticket for autographs for the Steven Universe cast.
Yeah, but you made out like a bandit in that, man.
Well, on another note, because of that, I missed my opportunity to get into the panel at the San Diego Bayfront.
Yeah, there's a few things I would have liked to have done. But Saturday
that would seem to be kind of the thing with the way that they set up everything this year. I don't know how much they plan it, how much has to do with, you know, the availability of the people, you know, giving the panels and everything, but there was a lot of things that, you know, some of us wanted to see that was kind of like, well, I'd like to see this, but this is taking place, or I'd like to see that, you know, and do this, but this is going on, and it's like, man, you really had to choose.
I would say that's both a strength and a weakness. It's a strength because you have the opportunity to see at least a part of one of your favorite shows, very likely at Comic-Con, because they service all of it. Cartoons, live action, comic book related, all of it. It's a weakness because I think they also schedule it to the point where it's almost impossible for one person to hit all panels and items to a particular show. Not because they're trying to keep you out, but because I think they're trying to make it accessible to everybody. They don't want people monopolizing everything in a particular fandom.
Yeah.
That's a guess. I'm not going to say that's purposeful, but because of where things are spaced and how it's put together, it does feel like they're trying to give different people an opportunity to get into this at different parts.
Yeah, it does make sense in a way, too, because, I mean, with as many people as go there...
130,000 every year.
Yeah, you could definitely see, you know, oh, yeah, you know, I'm having this at this time and this at this time, and anybody that's like, oh, well, you know, I've just got to be there, you know, they're going to figure out a way to get into every single one of them.
Yeah, did a few things. What was it? That was also the afternoon when Jesse and I met up and chilled out at the end of the pier behind the Embarcadero, which is behind the convention center, and we went to Burgers, Beer, and Bait, which sounds horrible because it's just this little pagoda-style building at the back that serves, burgers and beers and everything, but they do it for low cost, and it's surprisingly good food. I mean, San Diego is a very humid town because, over half the town is like right there on the edge of the water. So when they make the burgers, they purposely make them dry. They're not greasy, they're not wet, but when you're surrounded by humidity, a dry burger is really what you kind of need in that area. And they don't serve heavy items. They don't serve like onion rings or fries. They just serve like hot dogs, burgers, and drinks.
Nachos.
Oh, they do serve nachos, but they don't serve a whole lot of purposefully heavy food. And I can get a burger, a soda, and a bottle of water for under $8.
It's a nice deal. We actually came back to it multiple times because we realized this is probably like the best place to get some, good food.
Well, we went back to it
walking
purposefully.
Too far.
We went purposefully back to it on day 4 because day 4 was a light schedule for just about everybody, and it's just like this is a good chance to just eat some food and relax for a little bit.
It wasn't a lifesaver for you guys when you were in the Hall H line? That was Friday.
That was Friday. That was later in the day because several, we decided to ditch several panels because, again, news-related, already knew a lot. And we agreed to be the dinner section of a Hall H line for the Saturday panels, which, of course, started Friday morning at like 5. And the segment we were in a parking lot. And I know Steve wasn't feeling well that day, but he went out to... He went out to Burgers, Beer, and Bait not long after he arrived. I'd say it was about 5:30. And by the time he got there, they were out of burgers. All they had left were nachos.
Yep.
I grabbed a burger at about 4:30 because my shift was at 5. And I sat down right after they had left at 5. I ate my burger, and that was a lifesaver.
Should we tell them about the incident when I met up with you in the line?
Incident.
He broke a chair.
Yeah.
Oh. I wasn't going to embarrass you. We were part of a Hall H team that probably consisted of about 12 people total, really. And because there was usually about 2 or 3 people sitting there, everybody had left like lawn chairs, blankets, umbrellas. We brought a blanket of our own. We tried our best to contribute. And the chairs we brought, Jesse decided to sit down for a few minutes, but he sat down in this light version of a chair I'd never seen before. He sat down in it fine, but as soon as he leaned forward, he broke one of the ball joints.
Yeah, it's like, well.
Yeah. The people that owned it, they weren't upset. Apparently it wasn't that expensive of a chair. I would say that the problem, though, wasn't until later that evening. Jesse was firm in the killing joke.
Right.
But what happened was they handed out the wristbands for the Saturday panels to the first section of the line. When they got to our section was when something happened. I don't think we've ever talked about this with you, Jesse. The line was directed, apparently, by a couple people and curved into this parking lot where it formed columns.
And the issue was that particular area was not supposed to be used. That was parking for the Crab Shack. And so then all of a sudden, people started trying to say, oh, well, we weren't part of the official line.
Yeah, people further back in line came forward and said that our section of the line shouldn't be counted because we lined up somewhere we weren't supposed to. We essentially cut into line, was their argument. But some of the people we were actually in the group with were smart enough that when they were directed to line up here, they took pictures of the people that told them where to line up and at what time of the day they lined up, and they managed to make a consistent argument to the people handing out wristbands. But this took a good 35 minutes to resolve between arguments.
At least.
It was not an ugly it was not a good situation. It almost turned ugly, and I was actually kind of ashamed of our section of the line because once it was determined that they were going to hand out the wristbands to our sections ahead of the people waiting behind us, a lot of people up front in that section started to yell at the people arguing shame, 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 a la Game of Thrones, like end of season 5. I understand that you're glad that you're getting the wristbands like you thought you were, like I thought I was. However, I've been in the shoes of those people who thought they were doing what they were supposed to and ended up shoved further back, and that sucks, man.
Yeah, it does. Quite frankly, I understand why they wanted to come forward, but I can't give them an altruistic reason for it.
I'm not giving them an altruistic reason. However, it's also not a point where we should be yelling at them.
Yeah, it really didn't need to. It didn't need to escalate to the point where people are yelling and shouting and so forth. It just, people have been standing in line. Some of those people, we had only been there for, about 5-6 hours at that point, but some of those people have been out there all day, so on and so forth. You can see where attitudes could have gotten frayed pretty easily, and it really didn't help that,
Well, it's a stressful situation. Everybody was waiting out there for the Saturday panels, known as like the marquee panel days for all the big movies that are coming out.
Yeah.
So it's one of those cases where you don't want to be in the wrong. You don't want to be shoved backwards, because that could mean you stuck behind a bunch of people without any hope of even getting a chance to see what's going on the stage without those video monitors.
Yeah, and I can understand that, but it also didn't help that it seemed like the con staff didn't know what the hell was going on either. Because it should have been it should have been an easy enough situation where the con staff should have just been like, no, these people were put here, go back, we're going to handle it. Instead, it turned into this huge discussion where at one point in time it almost sounded like we weren't going to get wrist badges.
Well, the thing was, though, it was one of those cases where both parties were right. The people behind us were right. We shouldn't have been directed to line up there. The problem was, though, is that the convention staff didn't direct people to line up there, but the convention center security did. So there were mixed messages as to why we were there. We were there for the right reasons, but it was one of those things that had to be sussed out real quick. And fortunately, like I said, members of our particular section of the line actually took photos of who told them to line up.
Right.
So if it wasn't for that kind of record keeping, we probably could have been pushed to the back of the line.
Well, and it wasn't even that the person that took the pictures wasn't even taking pictures of the staff on purpose. It was, we just so happened that the spot that they had picked out was right there. And so in the process of taking pictures, showing people, hey, this is where we are, come show up here, showed those individuals, and so it worked out well in our favor.
Well, that's not what I got, because when I was listening to her, she said that stuff like this had happened like every other year, so she just got into the habit of taking pictures of who tells her to go where. So she purposefully documents things just so like crap like this doesn't get her shoved backwards.
Okay. Yeah, because when she was first talking about it, she said, yeah, I've got photos because, when we first lined up, we needed to tell people where to go.
Yeah. Now, Jesse was not there because he actually went to the debut of The Killing Joke animated.
Mm-hmm.
And I was surprised when we talked to you the following night. Go ahead and regale your story. How was The Killing Joke?
I see what they're trying to do.
No.
Asshole. No, it's just, I think the core story of The Killing Joke, the last, I don't know, whatever minutes, the latter part of it, is, I think it had the same issues we had with the actual comic book. And the thing is, and I think the other problem is they tried so hard to capture every single panel in the animation to the point that they didn't utilize the medium that they were using. They just tried to recapture the comic. As for the first 30 minutes with the Barbara Gordon story, I see what they were trying to do, but this was poorly executed. I mean, everyone else has lambasted, and they may be overtly aggressive toward it, but it's like it was just poorly done.
How was the voice acting in it? Did it feel like they were talking to each other or just reading lines?
Oh, no, the voice acting was phenomenal. It was great. The animation, when they got to those iconic scenes with from the comic, they were freaking gorgeous. Everything in between was, especially the musical number that they had.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear you didn't have the great time. At least you didn't stay for the Q&A afterwards when stuff apparently got hostile.
Very hostile.
The thing is, getting the Killing Joke was not the highlight of my day. The highlight of my day was standing in line for the autographs.
Well, I'm still amazed that Anthony regaled us with a story, and I looked it up afterwards. It did happen, where during the Q&A section after the viewing, somebody got up and asked about why they added those particular scenes of Barbara Gordon in that format, where it seemed like Barbara Gordon was more sexually attracted to Batman than just being dutiful as a sidekick.
I didn't even see that. This came out of nowhere.
What, the sexual attraction? Because
the actual sex.
Yeah. It was surprising when I read it, but apparently when the writer of the whole thing, the writer of the animated version, decided to defend himself, the guy who asked the question didn't like the answer and walked away from the mic and said something else. And the writer actually said into the mic, "Come back here and say that to my face, pussy." To which, dude.
Yeah.
That's a bad overreaction.
Mm-hmm. The professionalism just ran out of the room screaming.
Yeah. As soon as you say that, anybody that's skeptical on the film, you lose, unfortunately. You have a chance to win it back and explain it. Even if it's not a good explanation, just keep an even keel and at least give them something to chew over. When you tell somebody you disagree with, "Come back and say that to my face, pussy," that's it, man. People who are on the fence are off the fence and they hate your guts. And they hate your film. So that was bad form. Day three was kind of a wash for me because I spent it all in the same place. I was in Hall H all day, and doing Hall H at Comic-Con is like several other things I've discovered just going to Comic-Con. As much as you read about it, and just when you read about something second and third hand, you just think to yourself, why would you spend all day waiting for that? That doesn't make any goddamn sense. Once you do it, okay, this makes perfect goddamn sense.
Yeah.
Even sitting through panels I wasn't interested in was amazing. The anniversary panel of Aliens with Sigourney Weaver, Michael Biehn, frickin' Bill Paxton, even Paul Reiser was there. And the young lady who played Newt was there. Frickin' A, man. Lance Henriksen was there.
This is the first time that she's shown up in any kind of relation to Alien or Aliens.
Yeah.
Since the movie was made.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an amazing panel. The 50th anniversary Star Trek panel with Brent Spiner, William Shatner, Michael Dorn, Jerry Ryan, and Scott Bakula. Nice storytelling. Brian Fuller was moderating. He's a little creepy. He almost seems like that stereotypical version of the uncle you never leave alone with your kids. I'm dead serious on that. The Women Who Kick Ass panel with like Ming-Na Wen and frickin' Lucy Lawless, and Melissa Benoist. That was a fun panel. Like I said, all stuff I wasn't interested in seeing. Really interesting. A lot of nice storytelling and people talking about stuff. The Warner Brothers panel that started the day, the DC stuff, left me a little flat. And again, I know I'm not a DC fan, but I always hope that they show me something interesting. I love the original Superman films, 1 and 2. 3 was a hot mess. 4 was an enjoyable hot mess, at least. But unfortunately, the Suicide Squad trailer left me flat. Bringing out the entirety of the cast for the panel was not going to sway me if I'm not interested in the film. The Wonder Woman panel was more interesting. Gal Gadot does not have as thick of an accent as she used in Batman v Superman. It looks like they toned it down a bit in the Justice League stuff they showed us. And listening to her in the panel, her English is actually quite good. So if she brings down that accent, I'm more into the character. I will say that in sitting through the panels, the first part of the Warner Brothers panel, the DC films, still didn't give me a whole lot of hope I was going to see something I wanted to see. Of the 3 stuff they showed actual footage from, Suicide Squad, Justice League, and Wonder Woman, I had the most hope for Wonder Woman, but I still felt like there was too much Zack Snyder in it. So, I'm still hoping that will be the film that turns this whole ship around, but based on what we heard earlier, I'm now worried again.
Yeah. Well, Snyder actually got booed when he came up on stage.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, the first part of the Warner Brothers panel, they brought out like everybody who had worked on or was working on a DC property. Zack Snyder was number 2 behind the director of Wonder Woman, and when he came out, there wasn't like wide boos, but there was a section of probably 30 people behind me who did start booing. And I've said it before, I don't like the man's work, but I'm not going to boo him at his panel. That's wow, man.
Yeah.
That's in my opinion, rude. You can not like somebody, but disrespecting him openly is just really bizarre.
I don't know. I don't think that it was appropriate, but at the same time, it is kind of nice to find out that there's some people out there that agree. That this guy is just not good for what he's doing.
Yeah, in retrospect, that open letter that we read early in the show is making more sense because the Warner Brothers panel largely was not a great presentation. Yes, early on. I'm sorry.
Well, I wasn't there for it, but every time I've heard it described, it just seems like they were running more like a press conference and not a panel or,
It did feel like that sometimes. The most expansive thing they did during the panel was the main screen at the front. They pulled back curtains on both sides, the length of the room, and it turns out those were active screens that could have images thrown up on them. So they did these weird panoramic trailers for, or panoramic sections of trailers, I should say, when it came to Wonder Woman, Justice League, and Suicide Squad. But it was only panoramic in the form that they made special graphics and segments made for that, and then they would play the trailer itself just on the screens. The main screen and then the sub-screens for people further back in the room. It's not like they made great use of it other than just throwing up images while other people were talking. So the stuff we heard in that open letter criticizing their panel, in retrospect, I understand the criticism. And we can get to that a little bit later, because the most interesting that happened during the Warner Brothers panel was Eddie Redmayne coming out, having everyone gifted wands because he was the main player in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them in the Harry Potter universe, and trying to get everyone to cast Luminous Maxima to turn up the lights in Hall H. That was the most entertaining thing they did the entire panel.
And that almost seems a little corny, just listening to it.
It's goofy in my case because I'm not a Harry Potter fan.
Yeah.
To hand me a wand and have me cast a spell, I am the older guy in the room going, seriously? But there were a bunch of people in the room who dug it. That's power to them. Absolutely, they enjoy it. My daughter and my wife, when they heard that they did this, they were insanely jealous, like all damn day. The Marvel panel, though, at the end of the major presentations of the day, was a complete 180. Because they didn't make use of the panoramic screens very much, but they made everything a presentation. The Warner Brothers panel is very much wash, rinse, repeat. They had Conan O'Brien moderating. He would talk a little bit about an upcoming project. He would introduce the project and possibly a trailer. Then they would bring out the cast, talk, end the panel discussion, and move on to another section. The Marvel panel was moderated by Chris Hardwick from The Nerdist. And they brought out Kevin Feige, and the two of them would talk back and forth about a project, but it seemed like every other time they would talk about a Marvel property, sometimes it would go through the usual pattern of introducing a trailer, then introducing either a few people or the cast of the project, or they would suddenly interrupt Kevin Feige mid-sentence and just throw in some weird, presentation that threw everybody off balance. And I think that's where the power of the Hall H, the 6,500 person capacity room is when, a company just throws their best and brightest at you and tries to really take you by surprise. Swag doesn't matter as much to me as a good presentation.
Yeah, because the presentation is what you're going to take away and spread word of mouth. Getting some swag is like, hey, I got this one for Harry Potter and whatnot.
Yeah.
If you're not interested in that property, then that's really not going to do much. But if they made a good presentation, then maybe you are interested in it, and at least you've got a good story to tell other people that are.
Right. I mean, when it comes to the Warner Brothers stuff, what do I remember? A few trailers and a resin wand. That sounds interesting to some people. When it comes to the Marvel panel, I will rarely talk about the hat they gave away at the end of the panel. No, I'm more interested in the fact that they presented Doctor Strange by interrupting Kevin Feige and then using dry ice to make it look like magic sigils were dancing in the middle of the air before introducing Benedict Cumberbatch himself. I remember when they started talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, and suddenly the Ravagers were walking up and down the aisles, insulting people and pretending to be the cast of the movie. Shoot, I even remember when they started talking about Spider-Man Homecoming, and then suddenly you hear thwip, thwip, thwap, and the screens just show that glowing Spider-Man symbol from the end of, Captain America Civil War. They really just knew how to surprise people. And that was the highlight of my day. Even as a Marvelite, I was just kind of hoping something interesting was going to happen. And every time it seemed like I settled into my chair and just said, okay, here's the next video, is when suddenly, somebody new came out, or they threw a curveball and they had us back on our feet again. They put some real thought beyond what nifty videos are going to put on the screen.
Right. They made it a show.
Yeah. What did you guys do that day? Because, like I said, I knew where I was.
Let's see. Saturday, I ended up touring the Convention Center Hall. Finally got to head over to Ben Dunn's booth, and I ended up picking up two of his almost more of a novel format for all of his Ninja High School kind of little anthologies, and got them signed and a little bit of a sketch inside. That was really cool. That was kind of my highlight of the convention, was actually getting to talk to him, shake his hand, and pick up those. I've been a huge fan of his since Ninja High School, back when I was in like junior high and high school. So,
yeah, the thing he put in my sketchbook, I'm still in awe about.
That's just I need to know which next convention he's going to that I'm going to, because I need to actually buy a sketchbook and get a sketch from him, because that just...
It was over the top. Jesse, what did you do on Saturday? I didn't hear from you much.
I spent the time actually... Oh, you actually had me dealing with the... with a 360 camera, which I messed up.
Yeah, that scintillating 38 seconds of footage.
But other than that, I just spent most of my time perusing the dealer's hall. I actually got into the did I get into Hasbro? Yeah, I got into Hasbro that on Saturday. That's where I got most of my shopping done. Other than that, again, a bout of exhaustion hit me, so I went back to the hotel, missed some panels, the Flash panel, which I really wanted to see, but I missed that one. I ended up seeing the Riverdale pilot screening.
Okay.
I'm 2 generations removed from enjoying that show.
All right. Okay.
He was describing it to me. It sounds like Archie meets Dawson's Creek.
Never seen Dawson's Creek.
I have not seen Dawson's Creek. I've seen enough ads to know what pretty white people with problems looks like.
I've watched maybe three episodes of Dawson's Creek, and that's what I relate to it.
You know what? The highlight of the evening, though, was, after going through the first probably 45 minutes of Kevin Smith's panel is when I left with Brandon, so we made sure to make it in time for Hollywood Babylon, which was a few blocks away. And it was kind of interesting because as we were walking out, I start texting a few people that we're supposed to meet up with there, and as I'm texting, I look up and I realize there's Jesse staring at his phone, pointed at the building, but he's outside of it. So right when I'm about to walk by, I stop, which makes Brandon stop, and I just reach up and I just kind of punch him in the back of the shoulder.
Yeah, I was actually out there waiting for you guys to get out.
You were waiting in front of the wrong door, though, because we walked a couple sections away from the building before we realized that was you.
I wasn't sure where you guys were going to get out, so I was staying nearby. Maybe I might see them.
Babylon is always a fun show, though, because it's not like aggrandizing Hollywood as much as just kind of poking fun at the weird edges of it.
Yeah.
And
it is nice hearing Kevin Smith, because he always does his panel in Hall H. And that little anecdotes at the end are always kind of amusing.
That was really trippy, going from his Hall H panel so we could go watch him at a podcast. When he said he was doing a panel, I just wanted to reach up and just go, "Yes, thank you, was there." But that was still one of the highlights of the weekend when they're talking about that Chinese Kit Kat knockoff, Take It.
Yes, Take It.
Oh, God.
There was one of the sections of the show, they do like inappropriate toys, things that children are allowed to have but are inappropriate for them to have. Some Chinese company made a knockoff of Kit Kat and they call it a Take It bar. And unfortunately, when they put on big white letters on the wrapper, Take It, and underneath they put 4 fingers. In other words, 4 chocolate fingers of Take It. When you say Take It 4 fingers, it's a horrible, horrible thing. Because I can say Take It 4 fingers, and immediately I can tell both your minds are going somewhere other than chocolate.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It could be going that route. Who knows?
No, most people I'm sure are thinking honey right now, but no, God, I'm going to carry that with me, and I got to find a case of Take It bars. I would love to go to Great American Comic-Con and not just have like a package of them sitting at our section where they say we're going to be able to hold court in the middle of the floor. I would love at the end of every panel, like when Howard Chaykin, by the way, it's been nice talking to you. Here, take it.
4 fingers.
Have my 4 fingers. Enjoy the chocolate of my 4 fingers. Here you go. I gotta look
The only issue is that I don't know that I would trust anything coming out of China, especially not to eat.
I know, it could explode.
Well,
they could make cereal that would explode.
Or collapse.
Sunday, the final day, was a good day to just kind of wrap everything up. There's not a whole lot of big panels left to be had. A lot of it is like medium-tier entertainment, more minor companies. I wouldn't even say niche stuff, just kind of stuff that isn't as well-known as other properties. So the only thing is, though, I would say that Comic-Con, if you haven't wrapped up what you want to do in the exhibit hall by, like, noon, be prepared to wait.
Yeah.
A lot. You know, because Sunday was a day that Hasbro was a walk-in. Their exclusive booth was a walk-in. I managed to walk in and get myself a set of the Magic the Gathering exclusives. And that was the last thing I needed. I could have bought a couple other things that were on my mind, but, you know, it was one of those cases where even though I had the money, didn't want to blow the money.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the problem with Comic-Con after noon on Sunday is the same problem I have with a lot of conventions. When people check out the last day of a convention, they have nowhere left to go. All they do is just kind of mill the exhibit hall. And some of them are taking their luggage with them, which is even more annoying.
Yeah.
What'd you guys do on
the Pokemon Go situation?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Niantic got their Pokemon Go panel moved out of the regular meeting room into Hall H for the day, and there was a rumor that a legendary Pokemon was going to be released in Hall H, which caused people to go inside the convention center, sit above Hall H in the halls, and wait to see if this thing was going to be released, to the point where the fire marshal came and said, okay, GTFO.
Get out. Yeah, get out.
You know, they actually would not
care
let
if there's a legendary Pokemon.
Yeah.
You can't be here.
Yeah, Jesse and I had to walk the length of the hall, and we were going to go upstairs above Hall H to start the walk, but unfortunately we had to move through the lobby because, of course, they wouldn't let people up while they were shuttling all these people downstairs. The fire marshal already said get out, but they just didn't want to risk letting additional people up until they got rid of a large number of them, which is reasonable. You know, that's how you keep things structurally sound. So, you know, it even jammed up our final shuttle ride because we tried to get out of there about 20 minutes later, and our shuttle couldn't leave because people getting thrown out of the second floor of the building were just kind of milling around next to the hall in the driveway of the buses, still hoping that this rumor was true, which it never was. They never released anything at the panel. It just kind of... It didn't even jack up our day because it's not like we were waiting terribly long in any case. We were in an air-conditioned bus. Why would I worry at this point? The humidity all weekend was killing me. I still like the gas lamp where the convention's held, downtown San Diego. Wonderful place to chill out if you're not at the convention. You know, if you're interested in food, you can do that. If you're interested in shopping, you can do that. If you want to go to the mall and catch a movie, you can do that.
Yeah, I mean, especially for a convention where you're not really guaranteed to get every single day.
Yep.
You know, you may only get one. Yeah. There's still so much stuff that you can do just in the surrounding area.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies that bring their own presentations in either buildings or like temporary setups they put up outside the convention center that don't require a badge. Some might require a ticket, but there's a lot of choices for people who can't get into the convention center that day. It's a good thing to have. And I do love that the whole convention is seaside. As much as I hated the humidity, it's nice to be able to walk behind the building and get a fresh breeze.
Yeah, those breezes were a lifesaver at some points.
Yeah. You know, God, I know we talk about Comic-Con a lot on the show, but that's because we're not just talking about comic books. We are fans of Comic-Con, man. It's one of the most unique experiences you can ever have at a convention because, with the exception of cosplay, whatever your interest is, you're going to get a lot of it. There is cosplay there, but it is so far down the list of important things to most people going.
The weather's not really conducive either.
Weather's not conducive, is it? Building isn't conducive to it. Setup of the convention is not conducive to it.
I'll be honest, I think if you want to show off cosplay, I think the best place to do it is actually in the Salus Pavilion. I mean, it's not many people use it to traverse the con as a shortcut because they don't think about it. But I found most of the cosplay pics I took were up there.
It depends on the time of day, though, because a lot of the signature stuff goes on up there, and there are days where you really want to avoid that section of the building. There's always, like, minor celebrities giving signatures, but occasionally, like you said, the Steven Universe stuff was up there, the Supernatural stuff was up there, the Legends of Tomorrow stuff was up there, the Gotham stuff was up there. You know, there are certain times of day I specifically stayed away from the Salus Pavilion. You know, it's one of those cases where the convention was not set up for cosplay. It's called a convention, but it is a trade show. It's an entertainment and popular culture trade show. Everyone's trying to advertise their stuff to you or get you to buy something. The only difference between this and most trade shows is it succeeds. It gets you to do a lot of stuff you don't usually do at conventions. I'm wholeheartedly looking forward to next year, though. Even though there's a 50-50 chance Marvel movies may not be there at all, I still would like to see other stuff happening. Getting into Hall H was fun, but it almost made me sad that being in Hall H meant I had to miss panels on The Magicians and The Expanse. And that's the real pain in the ass, is you always have to make a choice.
Yeah.
There is no possible way where you're going to see everything. You have to make choices. Not unless that duplication machine I've been reading about actually comes true. Anything else?
The way of the future.
Yeah. Anything else you guys want to add?
I'd like to mention that the time I was waiting in line to get my autographs from the Steven Universe print I have here, and I actually got stuck between a bunch of fans. We had an interesting discussion about the show, about what we liked, didn't like, and actual decent conversation that didn't require us to hate each other. But
okay, so you didn't say it was transgender only then?
I don't think that ever came up. But I think the thing that was interesting is that the person I was next to, who was like maybe a third of my age, was the niece of one of the producers.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah.
Everybody, let's guess what age Jesse is.
At first, I felt awkward.
That'll start making me feel old.
I'll be honest, at first I started to feel a little bit awkward, but after just discussing and talking, it's just another fan.
Yeah, it's always the best. That's one of the best parts about conventions and trade shows, man. Sometimes you just meet people who you click with. I've been in lines at WonderCon where I started talking to people, not necessarily about comic books, but it's fun. Actually, if you want to be social at a comic book convention, I'd say WonderCon, like Comic-Con's little sister con, is the best way to go. They have some interesting parties out there. They have more fan-friendly style events. A lot more cosplay happens out there. It's a better place to socialize.
Smaller, more
accessible.
Yeah, accessible convention compared to Comic-Con, where it's just like, if you fell down, you would be trampled. It's like,
oh, come on, dude. You would not be trampled. You'd be pickpocketed.
Now, I will admit, once I did get up there to get my autographs and whatnot, I kind of did that thing I always do that you probably noticed me. I get that just blank face and just move on.
Yeah, that's every time I ask you to make a decision, you make that blank face.
Yes, I kind of did that with the voice actresses of the show as I got their autographs.
That's not creepy at all. A man your age and size just going, hello, like your show.
I mean, I smiled at first, say, here, and then blank face to the next voice actress. And I said, I feel kind of an ass for doing that.
All right. I think that's about enough. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
The show's actually turned out to be a little longer than I thought. Next week, we're going to discuss Doctor Strange Volume 1 of his Marvel Now book, The Way of the Weird. It's supposed to be the story where magic is broken and Doctor Strange is trying to figure out how to fix it. Thank you very much for tuning in. I apologize if it was a little long, but we got caught up on a lot of stuff, and we finally got Comic-Con fully off our chests. I think you guys understand what happened now. And hopefully you have an idea how to comport yourself when things don't go your way.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for tuning in. Enjoy your weeks. My next appearance will be Long Beach Comic-Con. I just got approved for press.
Nice.
Sweet.
So it's going down. That'll be September, I think, 14th and 15th. Have a great one. I am Jeremy.
Steve.
And Jesse.
Don't jerk and drive. Enjoy. And I still have blisters on top of blisters from Comic-Con, though. Lesson number one.
If you're going to a long convention that requires a lot of walking, don't break in your shoes there.